A little bit of introduction, because maybe here is where I'm going to start the recording. And I'll cut everything that we said so far. So today we decided to meet to just exchange and get to know each other a little bit better. Those of us that have been here week after week and many times before and already have an idea about not just my work and my talks that I'm doing regularly, but also your concentrations, which I want to know more about. And I'm sure it will be so interesting for everybody else to have this spirit of helping each other, guiding each other towards resources, maybe towards things that we are all doing and we can share between us. And also, I guess, things like tips about how to approach a consultation with a client or how to organize our work. Everybody has different experience and different knowledge. And some of you have been into astrology for many, many years, and you have your own path, your own style. And others like me are more beginners or mid-level beginners. So I hope this is interesting and we can do it on a regular basis. I guess once a month will be a good idea, or once every 2 months, so that we can see what everybody's up to. And let's start. I want to start with James. James, you're the first one on my screen, that's why. And I want to thank you for being with this group for the last several months now and regularly contributing. So tell us a little bit about yourself if you want, whatever you find relevant.
Well, let's see. I've been into astrology since last century, which is the way I like to say it, since it's been that long. Um, I had a normal kind of day job for 40 years, but got into astrology before I retired. Um, so I do astrology. I mix it with the tarot and a little numerology. Um, a friend of mine and I, we run the Santa Monica Astrology Meetup Group. We do a monthly Zoom meetup, second Sunday of the month, and I was just typing up a little information about it that I was going to in the chat to post to everybody so you could get out if you're interested. Our meetup is going to be, it's noon Pacific time, Sunday. We have a guest speaker who's going to be talking about Vedic astrology, so you can get a sense of some of the differences between Western and Vedic astrology. Um, I've belonged to several organizations, professional astrology organizations. I'm a joiner type. Early on, I was collecting a lot of astrology books. I had access to a couple of good used bookstores, so I was able to build up a nice library. I'm almost, let's see, what have I got? I've got over 700 books now. The only challenge is finding them. It's only one of them that I've actually read cover to cover a couple of times. Most of the time I use them for some kind of, if I'm doing research or just looking for something. My areas of interest include, let's see, Saturn, and the first Saturn return, which typically occurs within a few months after birth. All things Lilith, not just the black moon, but the dark moon and the asteroid. So I'm, if I get into any Facebook page or something, or just group discussion on, they're talking about Lilith, I always will ask them to which Lilith they're talking about, which usually tends to confuse people because most people don't realize there's 3 of them, not one of them. What else? Transiting lunar nodes. I've been looking into the transiting lunar nodes because I have this theory that as the nodes transit one's chart, because you're going between, you're having conjunctions and oppositions and squares created either by the north node or the south node, there can be kind of like an energetic shift in one's life, depending upon which node is making that aspect. And how it plays out is going to depend upon what your chart looks like. I have an unusual chart. I have a classic South Bowl, and their planets are all contained between the nodes. So in my case, that's what kind of got me going on it, was because that South node is going to, and for me, transits all of my planets first. And then the North node transits all the planets. Yeah. and so it goes back and forth over this lengthy cycle. There's no first the south node conjunct something and then the north node conjunct something. It's always one then the other. So I'm curious in terms of how, if, with other people, if they can, when they look at it from a time frame standpoint, they can see any shift in the energies going from like a north pole aspect to south lunar node aspects, north node to south node aspects. What else am I working on? I'm working on Chiron.
Hmm.
I kind of get put off now when people talk about Chiron. I immediately go to the wounded healer, and that kind of puts me off because that's really only a small part of his life. There was so much more to Chiron that I think is even more important than the wounded healer. But everybody goes to the wounded healer because that's where they started when they started talking about Chiron. And some of the early writing about Chiron was wounded healer.
Yeah. So many interesting coincidences between what you are researching and what I have been thinking about lately, especially Chiron. Dwayne knows a little bit about this. I also spoke to him lately and said there is something here along Chiron, like you said, a lot more to do with it than what the books. There are very few books still on Chiron, and even the good ones, I think they're not comprehensive enough. We may discuss it one time if you guys want, and I can share what exactly I'm talking about and why I think Chiron is so important. We did a discussion on it some time ago, but it was very, I mean, it was centered around other things. And another thing, the nodes transition. I think maybe you know Dane Rudhyar's article about this. Planets in the chart located on one side of the, on the one side, say from the south node or the north node. Have you found that? Have you read that article?
Let's see. I've read some of his stuff. I've read his book about the. He did a little book about lunar and planetary nodes, which is quite interesting.
This one is just an article which is on codia.com. I can post later in the group.
Yeah, okay, I'll look for it and double check to see if I've read that one or not. I'll take it out.
And you also said that you are into Tauro and Lilith as well. So I
Yes.
wonder, I had done a talk about the major arcana and the connections with astrology symbols. That was a bit unusual because I wasn't following anything, but I was kind of reinventing some of the connections the way I see them. And I remember when I got to the card of the moon, which in one of the tarot decks, the mythic tarot, is illustrated as the triple lunar goddess with the
Mm-hmm.
three phases of the moon related to that card. I connected that to Lilith and the three kinds of Lilith which exist out there, like you said, the dark moon, the black moon, and the asteroid. Could that be an interesting topic for one of the next times to look at these three Liliths and see what else we can astrologically discover around them?
Perhaps.
Okay, I'll
Just
make a
joking.
note of that. Make a note.
The simple story is that there are 22 major arcana in a traditional tarot deck. Those 22 cards correspond to the 10 planets and the 12 signs.
Which is not exactly the case, I believe.
Yeah, there's some slight variations in them, but for the most part, they're fairly consistent. And there are techniques for in numerology. It's called the life path, which is the sum of the numbers of your birth date. And if you look at that number and then look at the corresponding major arcana, that can give you a little added. The major arcana are archetypes, just as the astrological planets and signs are archetypes. And, as with the chart, we know that we all have all of it in us at all times. So it's the fact that you may have an empty 10th house, which is, as Pisces on the cusp, doesn't mean you don't have Pisces in your life. Pisces is part of us. So either way, however you look at it, it's all part of us. Interestingly, you were talking about the moon card, and that typically is representative of the sign of Pisces.
Yes, I know. I know what
And
in general.
yeah, so and that's kind of the way, so it's interesting when you start to do that and you start to look at then the correlation between astrology, tarot, and some basic numerology. You take, I'm a Virgo, which is the Hermit card. Numerologically, my birth date and my name both add up to a 5, which is the Hierophant, which is the planet Venus. So once you get a sense of that, you can gives you a little more understanding of, I think, yourself, but also of other people. And if you do the age progression with tarot, where you go from the Fool Child when you're born to the world or universe at 22, which is the 22nd card and then you start over again, and you start over again. So, at age 22, you're a fool again. At age 44, you're a fool again. And if you think about the midlife crisis, it all fits in. And the other things that happen astrologically at around the age of 40 to 44, those years with your Uranus opposition, your Neptune square, your Saturn opposition, Jupiter's 36, 42, Jupiter opposition. So there's all of these things. It helps to, I think, gain a better understanding and feel for the cycles that we all go through.
James, I had a question for you on when you normally, there's a moon and underneath it a cross.
Yeah.
Okay, does that represent dark moon, black moon, or asteroid?
That's the black moon.
That's the black moon. Okay.
Yes.
And what are the representations for the other two?
The dark moon is typically represented by a circle with a line at an angle through it.
Okay.
And the asteroid symbol kind of looks like a hand.
Okay. Thank you. I just,
Mhm.
I've only associated the one for the symbol that pops up. And I don't use it all the time, but use it occasionally with clients.
Yeah. The other thing is there are 3 ways of calculating the position of the black moon that you can do on astro.com. Has three interpretations of the location of the black moon, and they're different. And the key with the black moon, most astrology programs that include it will provide a true or a mean calculation. And they can vary anywhere from just a few minutes of arc up to almost 30 degrees of arc. So you have to, when you start talking about the black moon, then you have to talk about, well, are you using a true calculation or the mean calculation? But astro.com also has one they call the interpolated, which puts it in another position.
Okay.
Quite complicated around Lilith.
She is.
It's just when I run a chart and I see it smack on some like conjunct something, I pay attention.
Okay. Do you know if you're using true or mean calculation?
It's astro.com, whatever it comes up when I,
Well, what'll come up is whatever you pick.
Okay, I'll pay attention.
It's the asteroid. I believe it's the asteroid as a default when you.
It's a mean
asteroid
position.
Is not a default. Asteroid is a separate designation.
Yes.
No, I'm familiar, but what I mean is typically when you include, I think you got Lilith. The one that's most generally included initially is the asteroid, whereas in order to
it's not the asteroid.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Not in astro.
Most don't display most will not display the asteroid Lilith.
Well, maybe for me, maybe it's just the option I choose. I don't know.
What application are you using? What are you using? Are you using astro.com or a
I use
program?
astro.com, but I use they have a box that you can click that allows you to choose like from all the different options. I just believe I'm choosing the asteroid. Maybe it's not.
Yes, if
Yeah.
you're choosing it particularly, that's right.
I see.
Mhm.
I have a question for James though.
Yeah.
In on a similar vein of topic, I'm curious about your conception of Chiron and what it represents beyond the archetype of the wounded healer, primarily because I have Chiron in my first house, exactly conjunct Jupiter, and so it's just I find, you know, this archetype to be strongly represented or reflected in my own personality. So
well, I think what they tend to overlook is that Chiron was also a student. He was a teacher. Um, he was abandoned as after birth. Chiron is the son of Saturn and the grandson of Uranus. And interestingly enough, that's where his orbit lies. He goes from almost touching Saturn's orbit all the way out to almost touching Uranus's orbit. So there's an element there that would seem to suggest of family dynamic issues, because you have the grandfather, the father, the grandson. Um, then let's see, so we have issues of abandonment, a teacher, student. He was wounded, yes, but he was a healer before he got wounded. So if you want to put them in order of prominence, it would be a healer wounded. But then he also sacrificed himself.
yes, I find it interesting because, you know, Dionysus, it is my birth name, but in mythology, you know, there's a strong relation between Chiron and Dionysus. They kind of knew each other, and it's just interesting.
Can you think of any other person or character or who was born of a god, of an earthly mother, raised by a stepfather because he was abandoned basically by his father, was a very adept student, became a teacher, was betrayed, injured, sacrificed himself, and then placed in the sky, sort of.
Yes, sounds like Dionysus, actually.
And Jesus.
And Jesus, yeah, and yeah, I've heard the relations of.
I think there's a close parallel between Chiron and Jesus.
Yes.
In terms of when you look at their stories.
Dionysus.
Thank you for that.
Dionysus.
Yeah. Hey, Simona.
Hi, how are you?
I'm still awake.
Good. No, I just wondered, how do you see your Chiron conjunct your the Jupiter in the first house? What is your experience of it?
You know, I feel that I guess for myself, I will say all throughout my childhood and growing up, I found myself always wanting to interact with the public, always wanting to talk to the homeless, you know, the disabled, the people who were ostracized. And I would just talk to anyone in the public and try to help them. Literally, I would just help everybody that I could in any way. I would overextend myself. So that's one small example. And then I guess another one would be I've faced lots and lots and lots of trauma in my life for certain, you know, but I've I've learned from all of these experiences. For instance, I watched my mother die, you know, in front of my face, and you know, and I've also found several of my family members deceased, and I'm always in a position where I never cry initially. I just think of how to find a solution, you know, and I don't know. Then something miraculous happens, you know, in those traumatic moments. For instance, in my mother's case, she, you know, I watched her take her last breath, but and her heartbeat was it she went into cardiac arrest and her heart wasn't beating for about 10 minutes. But while the doctors were scrambling to find a defibrillator, and they confused me for a doctor. And they thought I was a doctor. And so I had to organize the entire medical staff and tell them what to do and tell them like to go find the defibrillator and blah, blah, blah. It was insane. And they found it, and I prayed for her, and she actually did come back to life, and she's in perfect health now. So yeah.
That's fun. That's really interesting. I'm asking you that because my Chiron is in the first house, and in fact, it is also conjunct my Jupiter. But my Jupiter is in the second house.
Wow.
And I'm just going to say this because everybody has got to have their
Yes,
turn.
yes.
But one of the interesting things, being as I am the age I am, 75, I've had the opportunity to have the Chiron return at 50. And as you probably all know, I was a refugee, and I was taken out of Romania when I was 2 years old. And we went to live in Sweden. And I was never able to get back to my country because the communists were there. But in 1989, we had the revolution, and the Romanians fought for their liberty, and Ceausescu died. You probably all know all this. Anyway, a few years later, I managed to take the courage and go to Romania to see my country where I was born. Now, that was but exactly on my Chiron return. I was 50. And not only that, I had not actually had, this is what I'm saying because it's in the first house, in terms of identity. I had never really had this, just one side of it. I'd never have, I've lived in all different countries, but I've never lived in my own home country. On the 4th of April, which is my birthday, maybe 2 before, I found my birth certificate in Bucharest. In the town hall.
Of this. I have a friend in Romania, so yeah.
Imagine that, at the age of 50, I managed to go to a town hall, in a little town hall in part of Bucharest, and there was my birth certificate in a cupboard. And I was able, I couldn't believe it actually. And I was able to go a few days later, and they gave it to me at the police or whatever. And I can only tell you that was, in terms of Chiron return, I had a sense of identity.
It was reclaimed. It was reclaimed and healed.
But, partly, because of course it doesn't heal completely. But it was a very interesting experience. Very interesting.
Amazing. I don't want to continue any longer because everyone needs to turn, but I will say you are ageless.
I just wanted to say that because I think, that gives a sense of the Chiron Jupiter. So anyway, that was me.
Well, thanks. Well, it looks like Chiron is such an interesting topic already. And
yes.
I have now decided not next week, the week after, we'll do something on Chiron, but from a different perspective. We can share our experiences and our thoughts on it generally. Yeah? Not just the mythology, because I think we all know the mythology and we all agree that yes, there is something there, but what else? So if you want to think about what else, I maybe title it something like Chiron Undiscovered Territories or something like this. So you can also tell stories and see what we can discover together about Chiron. Something new or something that we haven't really read anywhere about it. This is the most recently discovered body, isn't it, that we are using in the chart as a standard, along with all the other planets. Because it was discovered in 1977, we still don't know enough about it, and I guess it's revealing itself in the present century. So just to say, I thought it might be interesting while we introduce ourselves to also mention some of the key positions in the chart, maybe Sun, Moon, Ascendant, and the MC, if you want. So James,
Yes.
you want to share with us? You already said you're a Virgo sun, but what about the moon, the ascendant, and the MC? Maybe that would give us an idea of how we approach things and how the chart comes alive as well. James?
James?
Oh,
Don't be shy.
sorry. I thought I had more than expended my time. Ascendant MC, when I look at a chart, one of the things I notice is the axis and what mode they represent. I find it interesting if you find, sometimes you'll have a chart where all the 4 points are all in the same mode, cardinal,
Yes.
fixed, or mutable. But other times you'll find that ascendant descendant is one and the MCIC is another. And it always intrigues me about how that then plays out in a person's life.
Do you agree?
Tell us your sun, your moon, your ascendant, and your MC. What are the specifics for it?
Well, let's see. Okay. So I have Libra on the midheaven. I have Sagittarius on the ascendant. I'm a Virgo sun and a 12th house Sagittarius moon.
Could you guys talk a little slower when you give that information?
Yeah. Okay. So Sagittarius rising, Libra midheaven, Virgo sun in the 9th house, intercepted. Moon is 12th house Sagittarius. And it is nestled comfortably between the true black moon and the mean black moon.
Maybe that's where the interest of the moon, the black moon, comes from.
Well, yeah, and then of course the dark moon Lilith, both calculations are there as well, as is the asteroid Lilith. So I have all my Lilith clustered in the 12th house around my moon, which probably has something to do with why I'm fascinated by Lilith and the various manifestations she has.
Yes. Okay, interesting. Yes, I was reading today, actually, just before we started, this part of Dane Rudhyar's book on the houses. At the end of the book, I don't know if you know, but he has a very short piece about these combinations of signs on the angles. Say, what if Scorpio is on the ascendant, Taurus on the descendant, every single combination, and how this frames the personality in a very direct way. This is probably the most personal thing about the whole chart, of how the 4 angles frame everything. And yeah, so in your case, you have a combination of cardinals and mutables. Is that right? So mutable signs on ascendant descendant line,
yes,
but cardinal on the MCIC. And this is going to be very different from somebody else with the same ascendant descendant, but with different MCIC, or the other way around. Yeah. Everybody I can think of in my life that I know just about the angles, this strikes me as extremely accurate. And even if we disregard all the rest of the details in the chart, only that exercise of meditating on how we approach discovering ourselves, what we are all about. We need experiences of the type of the ascendant sign. What sorts of allies we need, what external help, examples, interaction, input, stuff like this on the descendant we need in order to feedback into this self-discovery, reflected back as a mirror. The way we stabilize ourselves on the IC, our sense of identity and permanence, and some sort of, thing that we can always go back to, not necessarily only related to home and family, but what we are deep down inside, that we can rely on at every moment. This is the sign on the IC, and then the MC is this participation out there and contribution to the overall scheme of things in the world and how we fit into the big picture. This is very much like scratching the surface, but if you think of the signs, I think it's very revealing. And mentioning all this, so when we go one by one, we can maybe think about that for each case. Jean-Marc, your turn.
Hello.
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 What are
So,
your angles and your
alors, my angles, concerning degree 22. So,
Cancer
24
ascendant?
Cancer ascendant, yeah. And MC Pisces, 28 degree Pisces, the very end of Pisces. And yeah, I was thinking of that, and it's true that, when I was 20 or 20 something, as soon as I dropped out of university, I ran to get unemployment benefits because my first goal was to escape work and have never really built a career. And then I did artistic activities. I've done a lot of storytelling. So sometimes I was also, well, I've been struggling with depression. So I was also rather on the fringes. And now I am an astrologer and I run an astrology group. And I am between the artistic, the escapist and the artist, things like this. And my son is conjunct Neptune in the fifth house. So it was storytelling and artistic expression.
And it's in Scorpio. I think the something got missed a little bit. We didn't quite hear the Scorpio part.
Yeah, the Scorpio, Sun conjunct Neptune in the fifth house, Scorpio fifth. So if you follow Neptune as ruler of my MC, we end up in the fifth house, and I've done a lot of storytelling. And the Sun is also the ruler of my Leo North node, which is exactly conjunct to true Lilith. So I have this true Lilith, and that's true that somehow being able to express myself and to get things out was really something very, very important. I've seen my father being very introverted, maybe autistic, maybe not, just on the fringe, but something very struggling with expressing itself and communicating. And it was really a great, necessary goal of my life to overcome that. And being able to get things out, great theme of my life. So I connect that both with the Sun in the fifth house, but the black moon Lilith, the true Lilith, exactly conjunct 24-degree Leo with my North node.
And your moon?
My moon, ruler of my Cancer rising, is at 0-degree Libra. So conjunct the IC in Virgo.
Key, very important factor in the chart.
Yeah.
I'm curious. It sounds like you said that you were autistic, or that your father may also be autistic, or artistic. Are you saying artistic or autistic?
I was saying artistic for myself because I've done a lot of storytelling and also acting and music, but really where I did the most was storytelling. But when I was talking about my father, on the fringe, it's more to express, to get you to understand the question. I don't know if there is an autistic streak in my family or if there need another label, but there were really something that could be labeled a little bit like that, struggling with communication.
I see. The only reason I inquire is because, well, for one, it's typically hereditary in families. So it's possible that if your father is also autistic, you may be as well.
Yeah, and have a nephew who is really like that as well. But it's on the fringe, you know.
Exactly. Meaning moderate, mild, but and still probable. But I am autistic myself, and the only reason this is relevant is because I have found that and I also, like you, I have a Cancer ascendant, midheaven, and Pisces, but I've noted there are many autistic YouTubers that are also astrologers, and many of them have a Cancer ascendant as well. And I just find that to be such a strange, striking pattern.
It would be nice, but
what was that, Praveen?
Sorry, I have one a question there. To become your autistic, the which houses will support to become your autistic, and what is the lot of the houses, whether they are looking at particular houses? Can I know that? I mean, do you have any experience?
Oh, actually,
I understand what you're saying, but we're not. I think that's a topic for a different discussion or time.
Okay.
We right now, Jean-Marc is just introducing himself, and
Okay,
I
okay,
just
okay,
had a
okay.
particular question. But I'm finished now, so please continue, Jean-Marc, and thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so
Jean-Marc, why don't you tell us a bit more about the group and about your page? Because you say storytelling, but people don't even have an idea, and I want to say it here, how well you write. If you haven't read anything by him already, I really recommend it, not just because you're a friend of mine, but I really like your writing.
thank you.
And it's extremely imaginative, very, it takes you to a different world astrologically, and plays a lot with the imagination and with explains. I really like the way in a few words you explain something that normally requires a lot more longer explanation. I don't know how to say, but you've shared the page, have you?
I've shared the link to my website.
Okay, and from there,
and from
everything
my
else.
website, if you click on blog, you get there. I'm happy because I've recently finished the Pisces one. So because I want Radilina was pushing me to publish.
Yes.
Take it.
This
And,
is an argument
well,
we have been having.
So I like to be pushed that way because, yeah, or maybe I needed to be a little bit pushed that way. And before doing it, I wanted to write the 12 signs, made 12 blogs, 12 posts about the 12 signs. I've just done the Pisces, and I've asked to an astrologer I know if she knew publishers, and she recommended me to a publisher. So I'm waiting, Wessex Astrology near London. So maybe I will be published by
like
a publisher. And but if I don't get news from a publisher, I do it in self-publishing on Amazon.
So you're saying you're doing a real hardcover book?
Oh, I
like
don't
paper
care.
book?
I don't care if the cover is hard or soft.
No, I mean, maybe I said it wrong. I said it wrong. What I meant is it's not going to be an electronic book, which I was pushing you more towards, like publishing yourself or doing something with, say, Amazon, for example, or which is also paper book.
I think paper is really important because so maybe you can connect that with my Sun conjunct Neptune and the Cancer and the sense, but I really not feel the same when I am in front of a screen and when I have a book made of paper. Yes. And I would really personally recommend to have paper because you meditate better, you understand better, you are in a different state when you are with paper away from a screen, and I feel you can go deeper into the meaning of things.
Exactly. It also materializes the second house north node, and that was my idea always. In regards to your, you have Leo north node in the second, and I thought the second house is some sort of a key, that it has to be something physical, something that you can hold in your hands, like a book. Mm-hmm. And it also has like the name of the author on it. Somebody can pick the book in 100 years from now and find it in a library or something. While the electronic blog is great, but it's something of a different experience, as you said.
Yeah, and that's something that could vanish. You imagine, mm-hmm. Some kind of technical issue and shoop.
Yeah, exactly. It can disappear in a moment.
Or Google decides that they don't want me anymore. Everything disappears.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm very happy that you're doing that. That's
thank
great.
you.
We look forward to seeing the book.
And I've also taken a decision. It's a time where I'm starting things. First of all, I just start. I registered to the Faculty of Astrological Studies.
Mhm.
So because I've learned as an autodidact since maybe 15 years, and now I think I can go to school and I start from the basic level foundation course. So I'm going to learn the when one element is in the long term having a certification can be very useful. There are many people on the internet, and that's true. When there are no certification, you can't really know if the person is the kind of you know airy fairy intuitive who is going to project their own fantasies on you, or if there is something stronger. So it can be very useful. And being an autodidact, so I blame it on my South Node in Aquarius and Jupiter in Aquarius and Uranus being in the third house. I want to do things myself, but now I've proved myself that I could do it on my own, and it's a little bit chaotic when you do things on your own. I think they are.
I have a bit of mixed feelings about this. It's something very good could be, especially for people that come to you, but they don't know anything about astrology or anything about us. And I've also done a course which still thinking whether the diploma is important or not to have it, because like you, I'm more in support to self-study and self-development, and I don't think any certification makes the astrologer. It's more complicated than that, more personal than that. But yes, on the one hand, you might be having a point, and maybe it's okay to just have it there as well, along with everything else.
Well, if I had to go to a doctor, I would go to a doctor who has this diploma.
Oh yeah, but
maybe people could learn medicine by themselves, and maybe some could be very good. But I would,
But the world is full of incompetent doctors, isn't it?
Yeah.
That are fully qualified in paper. So with these sorts of professions, I guess it's a lot more to do with the personality than with the certification, especially about astrology. Again, I have a very good article by Rudhyar to recommend. He's talking about exactly this subject. I will post all of these articles at the end on the. By the way, are you all on the Dane Rudhyar group on Facebook and on the psychological astrology group? Do you all have access to that or not yet? If you don't, when I send you the recording of the email with the recording of today, there will be a few links on there. And if you haven't joined those groups, there are direct links on the email where you can find this, because that's where I publish all sorts of resources and information, and including this will be there.
I want to say that, Jean-Marc, you said to me, I said, oh, I look at your site, Astrological Buzz, quite a bit, but you said, but then like it or make a comment or something. So because you invited me to do that, I asked the question about if anyone sees something in a chart that links to a person having a sense of humor. And that was a fun, long, everybody made comments until I realized, sense of humor has so many different kinds of sense of humors.
Yeah.
So that was really what I got from that. But anyway, that it's Astrological Buzz, and it was fun to see everybody respond to that question.
Yeah, there are topics that stimulate engagement.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you for inviting me to comment.
Yeah, thank you.
Also, I'm reading your website, Astrobond, and in the article you had written about Pisces.
You're already
and
there.
I think it's great. It's beautiful. I love the phrase you used. Well, the concept you had mentioned regarding how, I think you said something like angels or Jesus is, those entities are spiritual, but so are demons. And it just speaks to the polarity represented by the symbol of, Pisces. So well done.
Yeah, thank you very much. And to finish my chart presentation, I also have Chiron. Chiron is stationary, almost stationary in my chart, and it's at 1 degree Pisces, so very close to my south node. And when I had my Chiron return, it was really typical, because that's a moment I had some hard time before, and when I had my Chiron return, but I wasn't aware that was having Chiron return. That's the moment when I was thinking, oh, I need someone to help me, and I find a psychotherapist, and I find the right guy. So there was something really, and I realized that a couple of years later, that was my Chiron return.
I couldn't understand the last thing you said after it. Your voice kind of went down.
He said it was his Chiron
Is that
return.
right?
He said it was his Chiron return in which he found the psychotherapy. Oh, sorry, you paraphrase yourself, John Mark. Sorry, so sorry.
Can I ask the question?
Yes, wait. Go ahead.
Yeah. What I was trying to ask was, you said at the end, did you say you found the right person?
Yes.
Okay. That's what I.
Yes, that's.
And right in there is what I meant.
Actually, it was really great, because I didn't have too much money and was thinking, oh, no, it's quite expensive to go for counseling and therapy. Yeah. And in London, I find a place where students in their last year to become psychotherapists offer free counseling. And so I had 1 year and a half for free in a caravan in St. James Churchyard, and then the guy carried on for free for me, even if it was supposed to be only 1 year and a half. I had 6 years.
6 years.
6 years of.
Wow.
When he was a therapist, he carried on with me, and I just had to pay a minimum fee for the room. And
that's great to hear you say that. I know that group very well, and that is so special. Really, it is. You were very fortunate, but at the same time, I'm sure that it was, it was meant. It was meant for you. What can I ask you? What house is your Chiron in?
9.
Okay.
The 9th house. And
yeah.
And it's true that I've spent my life working on, trying to understand, like, maybe that's something, a thought that I have often in my head is, I want to understand what's going on, and how does that work? And even I'm studying astrology, and even astrology, I'm still there in front of these planets and signs, and I understand them to some extent, enough to do readings and have people happy with it. But still, that's really something important. And I say, I want to see clearly the map, the geography, how to figure out these energies.
It's the truth, isn't it? You want to know the truth, one of the truths.
Yeah, I want to know the truth. There was a crocodile. It's an African story. It's very short. There was a crocodile. The crocodile had heard that the truth was something very, very interesting and important, and the crocodile wanted to know the truth. And one day there was a boy, 10-year-old boy, crossing the river, and suddenly, the crocodile was in front of him, and the crocodile said to the boy, if you tell me the truth, I won't eat you. And the boy answered, the truth is that you are going to eat me. And the crocodile was puzzled, and the boy escaped.
Jean-Marc, may I say something which I probably might not have the opportunity to say another time? But you know, I have been watching you on Facebook and how you have changed. And you just did it now, actually. You have got this amazing ability to put humor into your the way you express yourself, and it's a joy. No, you're so expressive. Yeah, it's. I don't think I've seen an astrologer, you know, online as expressive as that. So keep going on with that.
Yeah,
You're always smiling. You're making funny jokes. You know, it's very uplifting.
Thank you. I think I am a storyteller before being an astrologer.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean-Marc. So much more, but we will see as we go along. When did you start? One quick final question. When did you start studying astrology? At what age, approximately? I'm just curious.
Maybe 40, 41.
Oh, so
like
just the when Uranus supposition, more or less.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, that's important, isn't it? Just after 40 is like right on time for the spiritual side of the life cycle.
That could be. I have to check that.
Okay. Well, fair enough.
Well, thank you for listening to me and for the compliments.
Oh, thank you too. And I just mentioned in the chat the Facebook group that Jean-Marc is running. This is a very big group where you can discuss everything, and there is so much interesting questions every single day. Not just by astrologers. It's more for learning, isn't it?
Well, it changed a lot in 2020. In up to end of 2019, we were 7,000, 8,000 members, not all being active. So it was quite focused. And in 2020, plenty of people joining. I don't know, the visibility improved, and it has become much more difficult to handle. Now I am feeling a bit tired with these groups. I have other admins, and I'm still there, but it can be so time consuming.
Yeah, especially when you are teaching everybody about basics as well. I can see that many times people, because the group is huge and it's very helpful, somebody just asks something that's particularly for them, important for them, and like how an aspect plays out or what to do with particular planet or something, and then you spend so much time explaining under every post. This to me is a lot of free teaching, which you're kind of contributing on your own, and I can see you have like a bit of my tendency to give a lot out of your time, but maybe there needs to be a bit of balance there, because people sometimes just
that's sure, but at the same time, how do you promote yourself?
Yeah, I understand.
It's a platform.
We are all on the same page, isn't it? We're all looking for ways to balance between being visible and not doing too much unreasonable, spending time out there. But yes, it's not easy. Good you involved other people to help you, because that's probably the way forward.
Yeah, and what I wish is precisely if there are other people, other astrologers who come as astrologers, not just to say, hey, I am an astrologer, I offer readings, and
promote themselves,
like my page and follow me, but use the platform to engage with people, because it's my fifth house talking again, and I did public speaking, and I tried to study how to promote yourself. You need to engage with people, because people buy people, actually. Basic business principle. People are going to buy a reading because they know you, because you're familiar, and because they love you.
Yeah. But
I
you
love
also say on the group, like the title, quality, not quantity, isn't it?
yeah, no, that,
I find it a better way, like rather than having many people there and relying on the fact that because there's so many, somebody will engage in what we are posting as topics or discussing, rather have a smaller community like we're having right now, but more engaged with one another, quality. And this can sometimes bring better ways of promoting than having a lot of people that see you, but 90% of them don't pay attention or don't just are not at the right place, or maybe waste a lot of your resources at the same time. So I don't know. It's just a thought. Just a thought. Yeah. Any ideas you guys here may have? I mean, those of you that are practicing astrologers or something like that, like we are with Jean-Marc, let's think of ways we can help each other, because you're absolutely right. People, we're not a competition to each other, because every client, for example, is naturally attracted to this astrologer with this approach that they need. And it's very specific. It's very person specific. So I think there are people out there for everyone. We just need to find a way to speak to them and be more visible and more, just to say we're available. And if you want, you're welcome, yeah, to come over. All right, Simona, you're the next one on my screen.
Hello. Okay, well, I'm probably one of the only ones that are not sort of like an astrologer as such. But I have had, let's see, if I go back into my life, astrology came into my life when I was about 23, 24. And through, at that time, a very well-known astrologer in London called Mary Anderson. And yeah, see, it's interesting. I was fortunate to have a reading from Mary Anderson, who was very well known, and also another one called Ingrid Lind, who was very well known. And Mary, she saw in my chart that I would be a good astrologer. At that time, you didn't have all the wonderful technology that you have now. So I studied with her husband, doing calculations. And unfortunately, that put me off completely because I'm numerically dyslexic. So I kind of put astrology aside, and I became very interested in psychology. And well, my life took me to New York, where I, studied with Dr. Ira Progoff, who was the man who was the pioneer in journal keeping, in psychological and spiritual journal keeping, and that became my main work since I was 27 up to now, or 10 years ago. And in between, well, I've still kept astrology all the time like a main hobby. So, next to my my table, my bed table, I always have an astrology book. I've always had an astrology book to read at some point or another. My library is full of astrology books that I possibly have not read, like I was saying the other week, the Alexander Ruperti that I bought, 40 years ago.
Did you read it at the end?
But, oh, no, I haven't read it, but I've read, what I've done is, you see, because I am a psychotherapist and I've worked as that's right, it's a wonderful book. I've worked as a psychotherapist for so many years, and I trained in transpersonal psychology. And in the 70s, I'm going to boast a little bit now. Please don't take that I do that very often. But in the 70s, when astrology was growing, my friends were Liz Green, Howard Sasportas. Howard and me, we actually studied at the Westminster Pastoral Foundation, which was the first, this was in 1974-75, it was the first establishment where you learned counseling at that time, and everything was budding. And another friend of mine was Melanie Reinhardt, who came to my workshop, my journal workshops, and and I can say that to her, publicly, because she kept all the time, telling people to come to my workshops, because it was at one of my journal workshops that she read out the first time that she knew she was going to become a well-known astrologer. She expressed it in words, and she became, as we know, she wrote the book Chiron, and so forth. And so I had all these friends around me, you see, who did, of course, influence me. So I never lost touch with astrology, and I always had readings. And then I can say, my work as a psychotherapist has been as a what you call it, a transition midwife, or a midwife on a therapist through thresholds. I mean, that is where, all the time I've always helped people to get through transitions. And so, and of course then, whenever I've been stuck in my life, I've always gone straight to my chart. I've been really, I've taught myself a lot. And so I've learned how to, look into the ephemeris and, look through the chart and so forth, just to check where is this at? What am I going through? Why is this happening in my life? And also I've used it with my clients. Whenever I've been in a situation where I've been very stuck in working with a client, I would ask them, what sign are you? When were you born? And if I see that they are actually interested in astrology, I will say to them, well, why don't you go and have your chart done, and we can look at it together. And I've had a few clients who've done that, and they brought me their chart, and I can tell them, okay, so this is where you're at in this particular transition point. So, let's work at it together. And so in that sense, I've found astrology very helpful. And I think then a few years ago, when I became ill and my jobs kind of petered away, I think for a very good reason, because I think I'm going through a major transition. I started, all I could do after having had a back operation was to lie down flat. So I started to look on the internet and started to learn more about astrology. So and little by little, I become more and more interested in it as I go along. It's very simple. That's how I feel. So it's like, I don't know where it's going to go, but I just find it it's a very important tool in my life. And I'm particularly interested in, there was another, she was very well known at the time, but she's not at all an astrologer anymore, but her name is Eve Jackson. Eve Jackson wrote a few books, and she actually did research in with Chiron, and she did. That's why I was asking Dionysus about the first house Chiron. She did research on Chiron in the first house, and she found that very often people with Chiron in the first house are born healers. Yeah. So I don't know what her book was called, but so yeah. So that's kind of my background. So as a journal consultant, which is something I've been doing over and over, for years. You know, my sort of what I'm interested is in the inner processes of life. You know, dreams and intuitions, and I work with dreams, and I work with active imagination and so forth. And then, of course, and with the mythologies and so forth. And so that, of course, is very much in the birth chart as well. And I am very interested in that particular sort of crossroad between your chart and your inner processes.
Oh no, maybe you want to mention you have MC in Gemini with the progress sun. The progress sun is right on the MC at the moment.
Yes, you're right.
Very important life-turning event. So a big concentration on your MC right now. Maybe the time has come for the MC to remerge.
Yes.
To do this Gemini kind of, maybe that's connected to the renewed interest in astrology and everything else that's going on.
I think that's true.
You want to tell us just that line up, even though we've seen your chart before, my sun is in this, my moon is in this.
Okay, I'll tell you. So basically, I've got my sun is in Aries, and it's 14 Aries. My moon is at 18 Taurus in the 8th house. And then I've got my ascendant is in Virgo. I've got Neptune at 7 first house. That is in it's actually in Libra.
But in the first house.
It's in Libra. That's right. And then I've got the MC, like Radilina was saying, it's in 23 Gemini, and the IC is 23 Sagittarius. And I've got the North Node literally on the axis, so that's 23 Gemini, and the South Node on 23 Sagittarius.
So that's very interesting, isn't it? That you have the North Node on the MC.
Yeah.
It's always important when the nodes coincide with the angles.
Yeah.
So you have North Node on the MC and the progress sun right on top of both of them right now.
Yes, and we were looking at that together, Radilina, weren't you? And this kind of really gives me it confirms, because in the last 10 years I've been feeling that I'm going towards this kind of new part of my life. And Radilina, through giving the reading, she really helped me to clarify it and to see it so clearly. This is why I like astrology, because you can see it clearly, how, there it is on the chart. I can see it. So now I feel, okay, it's like seeing a map. So I'd say, okay, now I know that's where it is. So I've just got to move on, and manifest it. It's a question of manifestation, isn't it? And it's very encouraging. This is what I think people might not understand somehow about astrology, especially people who want to hear predictions. You can't see that. But in terms of mapping your life, your inner life as well, it's fantastic.
That's right. Especially retrospectively as well, when you look at
Well, I think retrospectively, specifically, I think you have to, I think, I haven't got a quote now, but there is a quote. I think you have to live your life forward, but you understand it when you look backward. I think that's Kierkegaard. Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you, Simona. Very interesting.
Thank you. That's
stayed with us. Yes, it's not surprising. Also, you are attracting so many Gemini personalities, like Melanie Reinhardt, who is a Gemini, as far as I know. And this, she's part of this school. I'm not sure she's part of it actually, but she was once a guest speaker The Mercury School of Psychological Astrology.
Oh, but that's it. Yeah, that's the transpersonal. That's Liz Green's school. Yeah,
well, it's a continuation. It's not really Liz Green's, but like a student of hers,
John Green.
He's
John
not, yeah. So I did the course last year. I finished the course. Melanie Reinhardt. The reason I'm mentioning this is because so many of them, and it's called the Mercury School. So many of the teachers there are. Oh, Raven, you were there too. We were doing the course together. Yes. So I don't know if you know this, but so many of them are Geminis or with very prominent Gemini in their charts.
Yes.
Like, John has Moon in Gemini, Melanie Reinhardt, Claire Martin, I think is a Gemini too. Lynn Bell is a Gemini. So it's quite prominent, and the whole approach is very Gemini.
How does Reinhardt spell Reinhardt?
R-E-I.
R-E-I. Reinhardt.
R-E-I.
R-E-I?
I think it's
R and then E for Eric. I.
Is it H-A-R-T or H-E-A-R-T?
Raven, I just wrote it on the chat box. I hope it's correct actually, but there you can take a look. So it's Melanie Reinhardt. Yeah, I've got the book on Chiron. I'm not sure. I guess my favorite one is more Barbara Hand Claw.
Yeah.
Claw. Yeah, but anyway.
Me too.
That's another story. We can talk about this
when
we speak about Chiron at another point. Yeah. Yes.
I wanted to add, it's interesting. My sun is in Gemini at 23 degrees, right on your midheaven, Simona. And I feel I've always been intrigued by you since, since I first started attending these meetings. And so I don't know why. I don't know what that means. Yeah, but maybe you attract Gemini for some reason. I don't know. It's a very strange thing.
Well, we have two things in common, haven't we? We have that, and then we have the Chiron and Jupiter. And what you did say about your mother, you did hear me a few weeks ago talking about mine. So I think we have got some very deep things together, and yet some very kind of airy things, air. That's fair up in Gemini, which I recognize with you. So
I sympathize with you. I just really like you and appreciate your presence. So
I feel the same with you. Yeah. And I just want to say, Radilina, I have got all these very, very well-known friends, astrologers, but that doesn't mean that I agree with what they have written.
Oh, yes, of course. That's another story. That's totally another story. Yes.
Apart from, and this is where I become very yes, apart from Howard Sasportas.
He was quite a character, wasn't he?
He was. I mean, I saw him lecturing so many times, and he was an inspiration. Such a shame that he died so young. Yes. He was fantastic. He was a true Aries. I know people say about me that I don't use, you said it to me, don't use my Aries enough. Well, he was a true Aries. He was fantastic. And also his writing, of course, I find, you see, so I'm biased with him. With others, I won't say anything. They're my friends.
Yeah, he was a very good friend to Erin Sullivan, this other astrologer. And
yes, I know. Because we've spoken about it, Erin and I,
Yeah. Well, she has a video or something online where she's giving her memories, talking about her memories about the time spent with him and his character in general. And it was interesting for me too.
But he was a dear person. He was a dear person. I remember walking, I'm not going to go in. But anyway, no, he was adorable. He was fantastic.
But I've never known him, but only reading him, when you read the seminar, reading him, you feel this.
You feel him, don't you? That's right.
The warmth and humor at the same time.
Absolutely.
Yes.
He was a beautiful man.
Which one is your favorite book by him? I really like the Gods of Change. This is my favorite.
Well, me too. There you go. The Gods of Change. I've had it next to my bed for 40 years.
That's a lot of change.
Yeah, over and over. Yes.
Yeah, it's about Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. That one.
Absolutely.
It's
fantastic book.
Very good book.
Everyone should read it. Yeah, everyone should read it. There you go.
Yeah, well, now I wanted to move on to Stephen because I think, Stephen, you need to go soon. But before that, before you say something, I wanted to ask James quickly, what was it that you just mentioned in the chat box, James, about an event related to Rudhyar?
Yes.
Tell us just quickly, what is that?
Well, there's the organization ISAR, International Society for Astrological Research, has lectures pretty much every Sunday. There's one coming up June 27th titled Rudhyar's Astrology of Self-Actualization. So I know we've been talking about, we spent 5 weeks talking about Rudhyar. I thought, well, you might be interested. There might be some others interested. It's free to members of ISAR. Non-members can pay a small fee. But if you want to go to the ISAR website, you can go through their, they have a lot of lectures from other countries that are in languages other than English, Spanish, Portuguese, Serbian, Greece. So yeah, you go through and check it out, and you might find that if there's enough lectures that you want to attend, you can, by joining, you could actually end up saving money. I'm not trying to get people to join ISAR. It's just a matter of how much interest you find in their lecture series.
Sure, no, that's very, very valuable. I didn't know about this, so you know how I'm particularly interested in this. So definitely,
yeah, in fact, I think there's one coming up on Chiron it's coming Sunday.
Really, on Chiron next Sunday. So
I think the unfortunate thing is, of course, that since the meetup group that I co-organize, we always meet at noon on the second Sunday of the month, and the lectures are typically at noon Pacific time. Those are the ones I can't participate in because I'm busy doing something else. But sometimes I'll try to, if I'm not speaking, then I might have the other one going on next to me in another computer.
Okay, and did you
so there's a lot of stuff coming up.
Right. Did you share here on the chat box the link to your ones, the ones that you organize every month? Okay, good. We'll take a look at that. All right, Stephen, your turn.
Well, thank you, Radilina. So yes, I'm kind of short on the clock. I'm not going to be able to share much about my background and my filamentary extensions within the Hermetic arts. I will like to share a thought, though, with the group, because this thought was stimulated by the group itself. And in this particular regard, it's the idea of anachronistic terms in astrology that are embraced as part of the tradition. Now, my feeling is that anachronistic terms have a nice tradition about them, but they distract from the real focus of what's going on within the person's mind as they look at the chart. And the connection I would like to make is in the previous use of the word BC and AD in terms of the chronology of time basically has this Western bias. The BC was meant to be before Christ. AD was meant to be Anno Domini, in the year of the Lord. Well, if people have kind of noticed, by the 1990s, all of a sudden this kind of slowly shifted, and we're no longer talking about the year of the Lord or before Christ. It's called Common Era, CE for Common Era, and BCE for before Common Era. So the idea is that the world is kind of shifting away from these anachronistic terms because they have a cultural bias about them. And in terms of this modern astrology, especially from this humanistic point of view, the idea of embracing anachronistic terms has a way of intrapsychically biasing an individual. And I'm going to specifically refer to the major angles of the
chart,
cardinal angles. The idea of the ascendant, descendant, MC, and IC, in my experience, are anachronistic terms and should be phased out of the usage. For one thing, this MC just means middle of the sky, but most people will say mid-heaven or zenith. You know, it's not, it means noon. And the IC below the sky, but it's also this nadir. So the idea is if we have ascendant that has a positive affective valence of something coming up, and descendant, oh, something has a connotation of being bad because it's going down. Midheaven is something that has a positive affective valence of being elevated, and nadir has something connotatively as negative as far as being below. So for myself, I thought, well, let me look at the cardinal angles themselves. Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Cancer, and just identify the function of the angle with the archetype of the sign. So for myself, I go, well, what I'll do is I'm going to call it what it is, and I'll call the ascendant the angle of the self, and I'll call the IC or the Cancer of fourth house the angle of self-internalization, which is still about foundation. And the descendant I will identify as the angle of self-harmony, because that identifies with the Libra function. And then for the 10th house, or otherwise called the midheaven, I'll refer to that as the angle of self-externalization. So that it becomes a process where there is no implied connotation of negativity between ascendant is higher than a descendant, midheaven is higher than the nadir, because these affect our own perceptions. And as practicing astrologers sharing conversation with other people, they say, oh, you're midheaven, oh, you're nadir, oh, you're descendant. And the people who really don't know what these cardinal angles are about are immediately in a sense of their cognitive dissonance within their own self-identity as their chart is being explained to them. And so and listening to the group, because I was hearing these terms being used so frequently, I started thinking about myself and my own self-examination of how these terms are used. So in terms of common consensual conversation, I'll acknowledge their concurrent use. But in my mentation, there's no longer an ascendant, there's no longer an IC, there's no longer a descendant, there's no longer an MC. It's angles of the self, angle of self-internalization, angle of self-harmony, and an angle of self-externalization. Now, I did a really quick thing here.
I love your lively approach.
That's great. Yeah, I love it.
Stephen, don't you think that we should simply try to explain?
Conversation goes quick, but I made a quick thing there about how I was identifying that. And in terms of like open conversation, it's just sharing the conversation with the group, because the idea of the triplicities and the quadruplicities have more of a heavier implication than an exoteric implication about your job, your family, someone you know, or one sense of self. There's an intrapsychic content about this that generally isn't acknowledged. And when I'm looking at what I'm doing here, I'm suggesting more of an intrapsychic content of self-reflection rather than to say your MC or my midheaven or my nadir. Yeah, those are all connotations that distract from the emphasis of what the cardinal angles actually represent.
Stephen,
amazing.
Yes, go ahead.
When are you going to do that for us? When are you going to give us a proper talk on it and give us, literally, because I think that this is very important, because this is a way of modernizing
yes.
the old terms of astrology that really are, as you say, absolutely, old. They are ancient, and it needs to be given a modern
aerodynamics of a car. When a car first became, it was a carriage, so everything was all flat. And now we have these aerodynamics. We want to save gasoline, so we want to have this stream flow. In the 30s in car business was really big. Everything looked like a big bubble. But the idea of the sense of modernizing is like, how about making it more efficient?
Yes,
that's the idea of modernization, allowing a greater efficiency to develop, so that some of these anachronistic terms can be just kind of set on a shelf and just be in reference books.
Good. You're going to do that soon then for us.
I
You
can't
are
wait.
more than
It won't be
welcome.
today. It won't be today because actually, thank you, Radilina, for the quick 5 minutes. But yeah, I got to be on site for the Tai Chi class in a half hour. So I got to
Yes,
be
I
back.
understand. Thank you so
All
much.
right.
Even before you go, maybe we should say this attention to detail in the words. What words are important to be used in language and in what we do. You're a double Gemini. Could you reveal at
Correct.
least like
Correct.
that?
So I have a predisposed sensitivity in that particular regard, which of course goes with the Gemini. I think I wanted to share it all. So there you go. How's that? Open conversation.
Thank you
But
so
I gotta
much.
go now, and thanks for the opportunity to be here.
Have a
Thank
good
you,
class.
Stefan.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Very welcome.
But I caught him at the right moment. I didn't know that he needs to go so soon. But at least we heard a little bit. Yeah, we once, if you remember, well, some time ago, what topic was it? Maybe you remember, Lauren. What topic
You were
was
giving
it?
presentations in,
Yes,
it was a
even
presentation about Uranian personalities, I believe.
yes, it was no, not the Uranian. It was the Plutonian, if I'm not
Oh,
mistaken. No, because
no, it was Uranian, but that individual had strong Plutonian undercurrents as well, or it was Uranian for certain.
yes, the person that he was presenting was very Uranian, you're right. But it
Yes.
wasn't the discussion about Uranian personalities, because I remember on that one I spoke about Lincoln, and then there was another presentation. So I think Stephen's one was the one before.
Oh, I'm wrong. Oh my God, I've been wrong quite a bit today.
It was Wilhelm Reich.
Yes, he spoke about
Wilhelm
Reich.
Reich.
Yes.
So if you
Sorry.
want to go back to this one, it's on the page.
Yeah.
And it's one of the, either the Plutonian or the Neptunian. I think it's probably the Neptunian ones. Anyway, so yeah, who's next? Who wants to be next?
I want to hear, well, I want to hear from everyone.
I want to hear from everyone.
I don't know anything about Raven.
Raven, you're actually naturally next on my screen. So do you want to tell us something about yourself?
I don't know where I'm going to go with this, because I'll first just tell you my planets, which is easy. The sun is at 5 degrees of Sagittarius. Then I have a stellium in Scorpio as my, I'm afraid to say ASC now or any of those, at the top of my chart. Don't
worry about it. We can incorporate that stuff later.
Okay. Culminating, you can say the culminating sign.
My MC has the stellium in Scorpio. And then I have my rising sign is basically 28 degrees of Capricorn across from the descendant. Right on my descendant is Pluto and Chiron. And then at the bottom, of course, would be Taurus with a little stellium there as well. So I have squares, lots of squares.
And your moon?
Sorry?
Your moon?
In Scorpio.
Scorpio, just like Radilina. My moon, Mercury, Mars.
Venus.
Yeah, Venus, all in Scorpio.
You have more Scorpio than I do.
I do. Between us, we have quite a lot. Yes.
Yes. And if Jean-Marc joins the club as well, we can fill all the boxes with Scorpio.
Yeah. And then that Pluto Chiron adds some of that quality as well, I think. My life, for the most part, has been really hard, with lots of life-death experiences, either for me or for people I've been close to, either caused by themselves or by outside circumstances. So I can talk about my interests primarily, which I started astrology as a way to save me from being criticized by an astrologer without my knowing what that was about. So I started studying it at about 14. And then I did charts at about 30, age 30 in Seattle. And, but I had no sense of the fact that I was actually doing something productive, and I had no really sense of it as a career or myself in the world, what my career would be. So I didn't stick with it because it scared me. I didn't know how to think about the planets as they were coming around and what that was going to do to me or other people. And I was afraid of the responsibility to talk to other people about what seemed fearful. Having a hard time talking, very emotional. So then I came back to it just before COVID, because I had a kind of a psychic intuition, which has always been very accurate, and I have a lot of that, that said, you're gonna be imprisoned. So do you wanna choose how, or do you wanna just get into a COVID problem? So I decided to stay home and study astrology. And that's how I got in Mercury School for 3 years. My idea was at the end to open a room in my house for a reading room and have people in, but then COVID got heavy. And so even though I did all the coursework, I didn't feel I could continue with that idea. I had a divorce about almost 5 years ago. And I've been trying to support my house so that I don't lose it to live in without making money. So I turned back to arts, which I've been somewhat successful with in an underground way. And, but it takes too long to produce the arts to generate when you're starting up again. So I'm right now again in one of those transitions where I'm running out of money, not really sure which way to go with it, and trying to connect what I did for like 30 years in film, connect film somehow with astrology, or connect art somehow with astrology, so that it isn't something people go ho-hum about when you say you're an astrologer. And
Raven,
so I've
where
been
are you?
focusing on that.
Sorry,
I'm in
sorry.
Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
helpful.
Yeah, which I was told by an astrologer not to move here. And I have not been able to leave since I came. Been sort of stuck here. So that's pretty much my story.
Thanks so much for sharing it with us.
Thank you.
I have some ideas about certain
You
things.
always have good ideas, Radilina. I'm not surprised.
Ideas of how we can potentially cooperate, but we'll see. I'll get in touch with you
I was
later.
thinking of this too. I was thinking of ways to try to help you, or to see
Help
how,
each other. Yes.
yeah, to see how you can be helped, you know, like on an actual financial level too. So
That would be good.
yeah.
Maybe I won't be able to go as far as that, but something, who knows? Who knows where things can lead us?
Jean-Marc, I wanted to remark on your gap teeth. I had a friend years ago that was a filmmaker. I knew a lot of filmmakers, and he did a film on gap teeth people as being extremely creative. So when I saw your gap, I thought you're doing arts, and I got that feeling. Yeah. Storytelling and all. Fits.
What is
I
your
have a little gap too.
Yeah, and what is your art?
It was film. I kept trying to rise above being on the independent level. I was an independent filmmaker but I mostly taught in the Indian reservations in various places, taught film and taught language through visuals. But every time I got a project going, it would get snatched away somehow. Lots of betrayals. And so I finally the digital thing hit, and it just killed what I was doing, because I was doing celluloid, real film, and I couldn't accommodate the digital well. It's been kind of really difficult.
You seem to be, your life, it seems to reflect the, great deal of Scorpio, that
Yeah.
is indicated in your chart. I'm sorry. I feel so sad. But you have a great spirit about it too. At the same time, you're resilient, you're strong.
That sun saved me. That sun in Sagittarius has saved me. And it looks kind of like a little outpost, like not a lot is connected to it. It's kind of like out there, the way I interpret it, as sort of shining somewhere.
That makes it more independent. I don't know if it's totally unexpected. I don't remember, but it was this independent sun that's not being touched that much by the rest of the
That's
drama
right.
in the chart.
That's right.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's right.
I thank you for being brave enough too to be vulnerable, to, egoless as well, to just express yourself and to express, the more dire aspects of life. And
Yeah.
yeah, I just appreciate it. And I want to contact you. Is your email in the chat, or like how do I contact
I can send you her email later.
Okay, perfect.
Yes, I have it all.
Yeah, you
I'll
do.
put you in touch. I'll put you in touch.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, thanks a lot, Raven. One more time. Who is next? Jason. We don't know you, so.
I don't. I wanted to, I was thinking that too. I was like, I don't know him. I'm ready to hear. Sorry, I'll mute myself.
Yes, hello everybody. I'm a newcomer to the group. I just so happened to have the work day off today, and that's why I was able to join everybody. I don't know in the future if I'll be able to join your group, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm like many of you. I've had a long history of astrology. I started studying astrology when I was 14. So I've had over 3 decades of various different levels of experience with the subject. I learned how to manually do my own chart, the calculations, all that jazz. And I also learned how to do all my families, my brother, all that stuff. I had lots of experience in figuring out the mathematics that go into chart calculations and that. And I was really drawn as a young man who really had a lot of challenges on his plate in terms of some stuff that was going on at home. And astrology was a tool that I was trying to use to gain some perspective on what was going on with things that were beyond my immediate control. And that's essentially where the astrology thing really hits home, is it gives you a perspective on things outside of your own perspective. So it gives you kind of a transpersonal view of the situation around you, because not only can you look at the time frame where you're doing, for example, transits, you can see how those transits are going to not only affect you within your own chart, but as you transpose that to your family members, you're going to also see there's going to be correlations that they're going to notice within their own life. So my journey has been quite variegated. I started out with the Western astrology background. Within about 4 or 5 years of starting to study astrology, I became a member of a local group in Saskatchewan. In Regina specifically is where I was born. And there was a bookstore in Regina that was catering specifically to your New Age topics. So it had everything from your witchcraft to religious stuff to astrology. It had all this various types of material. And as part of this bookstore, the owners held astrology groups once a month. And it was usually the first Tuesday after the new moon. Once the new moon cycle had begun, that's when we would hold our meetings, which was a really good way of kind of getting introduced to other people that were involved with the topic, were able to give their own perspectives. We did our own chart casting amongst each other. We would talk about our charts with each other. We would discuss transits. We would discuss what's going on in people's lives. We tried put the pieces together and try to understand kind of the bigger picture of what was going on. And that went along for many, many years. And then at some point, the owners decided to stop doing the groups. And over time, the group continued on in a different format, but people kept getting busy with their life and they just kind of moved away from it. And then at some point, we just totally shut it down. And I don't remember exactly what my age was, but there was a point where I came to the realization that just the study of Western astrology in its current context wasn't sufficiently covering the ground that I was looking for in terms of my studies and my researching. So there came a point where when I was in the bookstore, I came across a book by James Braha, which I'm sure everybody is familiar with the name.
We're not.
No? James Braha
No.
is one of the first Western astrologers that went to India and learned Hindu astrology. And what he did is he basically took his learnings and teachings and he put it into a book format for the Western person to look at and understand, to give some perspective on how the Hindu culture views astrology and how they view astrology as a whole. Like it's a very different perception of it. And I started with that book and I really got very interested in it because that level of astrology was different than Western in that it was a little bit more systematized. It was a little bit more structured, but at the same time, it was also more simplistic. It didn't involve quite as many factors as the Western astrology did, but the way the Hindus study astrology in India is they're not really focused as much on how many ingredients they put into the astrological soup. It's not about adding more stuff into the soup to make it taste better. It's about understanding that the ingredients that are there, it's when you get ingredients that work well together within that soup is where you're going to get a strong effect with that flavor. So it really has more to do with a confluence of similar factors that overlay and overlap that gives you the essence that comes out within a person's life. And it really took off on its own, and it was a very interesting trajectory for me to carry on with. And over time, I've grown with this. I've learned about it. One of the most interesting facets with Hindu astrology is they deal with something called dashas. Western astrologers may have heard it. They may not. I don't know. But dasha is it's a specific sequence where all of the planets lord over periods of time in a person's life. And all of this is basically set up based on the moon's position at birth in the lunar mansion that it was located in. So it's a complicated system. I won't go into at the moment, but for those that are interested, I can give references that you can look at in order to search for yourself if you want to look at it. But
Jason, would you be interested at some point to make a quick presentation about this during one of our, we meet usually every Thursday, and every time we choose something that we just spontaneously decide to do next time around. So doesn't need to be soon, could be whenever you're available on a Thursday. But if you want, you can do that.
Okay, let's keep it open. Let's see what happens. Let's see if I can get some time free and maybe I can try to do a presentation.
Yes.
But yeah, long story short, so I've continued with my Hindu astrology studies, and this dasha system is really what pulled me in because it really does come into the picture of understanding how a person's life unfolds through time, because it really indicates when planets gain their power at specific points in a person's life. So to this day, I still study it. I still have lots of reading material. I did go through a course with a gentleman by the name of Dennis Flaherty, who is located in Seattle. I did some training with him for quite a few years. He does teach what he calls Neo-Vedic astrologer, so it's kind of the Western version of Hindu in terms of his teaching. It's a fascinating topic. His way of studying involves the sidereal zodiac, not the tropical. I don't see the sidereal and tropical as being competitors to each other. I think they're equally valid. They have equally different values in the way we look at them. because they both have different reference points. They have different things to which they are representative of. The timing of things is more accurate for the sidereal positioning. The tropical is more in line with the psychological.
That's right. Yes,
So
that makes so much sense. Actually, I'm glad you're saying that, because I had this suspicion, without knowing too much about the sidereal astrology, that it's a different system which doesn't contradict the tropical process-based analysis of things, but it's as you said, more situational in a way. So I would be very interested to learn more about this at some point, if you are willing to tell us.
okay, we can do that. And I guess as just a chart intro, I have sun in 3 degrees of Taurus. I have moon at 22 degrees of Taurus. My ascending sign is Virgo. I've got 23 degrees rising. I've got the midheaven at 21 degrees Gemini. I've got the south node exactly conjunct that. North node Rahu in the Hindu system is located in the 4th house cusp. Mars Saturn conjunct in early Cancer, which is square Pluto in early Libra. And I've got the Uranus opposite the Sun and Mercury, which is located in Aries. So I've got quite a few contrasting factors in my own chart.
Interesting, interesting. So you are a little bit like James Burgess. I don't know if you know him, the guy that's doing the presentation next week, well, last week, and then we're doing the workshop next week. Is a double Taurus with, well, another Earth ascendant. So a lot of Earth in your chart. Interesting. Just the opposite to me. Sun, Moon in Scorpio, and you've got Sun, Moon in Taurus. I found that interesting. Okay, well, thank you, Jason. Thank you so much.
James, can you spell the name of the Bahar or whatever the name is?
Yes, I'll put it in the text field. I'll send it to you.
Okay.
Yeah, send us any links that you think are relevant.
Just sent it right now. His name is James Braha.
Okay, thanks.
I like your lights in back.
Well, thank you. I try to have a little bit of some ambience in the back, but I mean, I just have a small place. I don't have anything too extravagant. Okay.
No, it's all fine. Okay, thank you so much. Next one will be, let's see. Well, Dwayne is on my screen, but Dwayne, let's give Lauren the chance to go first. Yeah, and then you go after her.
Okay, thank you. You sure you don't want to do Alexandra, who is, I'm thinking, has not, I don't know about her, and shall we have her come?
Yes, why not, if she's up for it. Alexandra, would you like to go next?
Oh, I said it wrong. You don't say Alexandra, you leave out the K?
No, Alexandra.
Alexandra. Oh yeah, you do. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so nice to meet you, everybody. I'm so excited to be in this group because from my friends, nobody is interested, like not so many people are interested in astrology. So I just found out about this group in some astrology group on Facebook. So I'm very excited. So I'm from Lithuania, from Europe. I'm a professional classical pianist. And I work as a teacher, piano teacher. I also accompany for choir because I work in a choir school, girls choir school. So yeah, so I work as a piano teacher, accompanist, I accompany for singers. My whole life is music. My mom is a violinist. My brother also chose a music field. He's a music producer, sound engineering. So yeah, and I started being interested in astrology a little bit at school when my friend told me my moon sign. So my moon is in Pisces. So I was like, whoa, maybe that's why I'm sometimes a little bit phlegmatic and moody. And then I started really like taking time in learning astrology almost 1.5 years in 2019, when I started really like understanding ascendant, all these Venus, Mars, all the planets.
At what age was that?
2019. So I'm now almost 30. So 28. Yeah.
In time for
28.
the Saturn return, isn't it? And for
Yeah.
all the changes that come.
It was like, because I'm Capricorn, I can tell you now my all this information. So I'm a Capricorn ascendant, and I think I have a stellium because in the first house, because I have Uranus, Neptune, the black moon with a cross, so black moon.
Yes.
Yeah. And also Rahu I have in the first house. I'm Sun Taurus in the third house, 17 degrees. My moon is in the second house, 9 degrees, Pisces. I have Pluto conjunct MC in Scorpio. And my Aries in Mercury in Aries, 22 degrees. Saturn is in Aquarius, also in first house. So I don't know how you call it. Intercept. Yeah. So I started like really like understanding all my life events, what happened when I started understanding about the Saturn return. So which happened in June a little bit. Now it's in return, and also in Capricorn, because it was in Capricorn and on my ascendant. So it started shifting my life, like with relationships and so on.
Right.
Also, I have a Mars in Cancer. Also, you talked about Chiron. I don't know so many things about Chiron, actually at all, almost. And I guess it's conjunct because Chiron 22 degrees and Mars 19 degrees.
Yes, it is conjunct. Yes.
On descendant. So, yeah. Venus 29 degrees Gemini. So, yeah.
And I didn't hear your MC. I know you said Pluto was conjunct, but
Scorpio.
what sign? Scorpio. Oh, duh. Yes. Thank you.
You were a child in the 90s. 91, is it? 91. Yeah, because people born in 1990 usually have the 3 planets in Capricorn: Neptune, Uranus, and Saturn. Well, you have Saturn in Aquarius, so this means 1 year after. Yeah, that's interesting. Right on the top of the return right now, so it's very interesting. And at 28, when you started with astrology, that's when the progress moon makes one full cycle. I don't know if that must be relevant.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about that. Yeah, I'm a new. Actually, I'm very like I spend all my free time learning, watching videos about astrology. But I also I have like a full-time job with kids teaching. So I don't study so much systematically, which I'm thinking maybe I should study professionally astrology because I'm very interested. But I also have
Sounds like you've learned a lot for 1 year. If you've only been studying it for 1 year, you're impressive.
Yeah, I also tried to study a bit of Vedic, but it was overwhelming. All these D9 charts, dashas, it was so difficult. I was like, oh no, it was yeah.
Okay. Well, I hope what we're doing here will be helpful for you, and
yes, thank you.
The materials I've got on the channel as well. So, yeah, that's great. Okay. Lauren, you gave me a good idea. Let's talk to the people that we don't know that much about, because you and Dwayne are regulars, and we know you a bit better, don't we? I'll leave you to last if you don't mind.
I just want to tell Alexandra, just in case I don't speak today, that I'm a music teacher and I had my degrees, my bachelor's, master's, everything, and I've been a musician all my life. So, but at age 28, I had my chart done in Spain. I lived in Ibiza, Spain, teaching music there, and anyway, so I feel I was really delighted to hear that, and that combination is now I'm doing astrology every day, but I'm also doing music every day and teaching all the things you had said. So it's an interesting combination, music and astrology.
Yes, I love two fields also. So it's just it's very nice. Did you study music pedagogy or
I went to the Conservatory of Music. I started at 4 years old with piano lessons, and I kept
Me
that up
too.
all the way through the Conservatory of Music, and I still play piano every day. But I became also a singer and a songwriter, and I used music as a way to embrace this horrible history of the Jews, Arabs, and Christians. And so the Golden Age of Spain had the Golden Age where they collaborated. So I made that one of my main things. And then I also worked so much in spirituality, and I was always opening up for spiritual leaders that I began to write all the spiritual songs. And so that became a whole way of touring and things like that. So I've kind of just used music for my own ability to help other people, or do something if I thought I could help. If there was, as an Aries, I want to do something that hadn't been done before. And I'm older. I'm now 68, and so I've been doing what I did. I tried to do groundbreaking ideas in music.
No, go on. Go on.
Amazing. Yes, you might as well.
Yes, yes. Now that we're
And I'm
speaking,
curious now. She has me on the edge of my seat.
share your chart details. I know them, but maybe for others.
Okay, so I have a grand trine in Aries Sun at 5 degrees, and then 8 degrees in is my moon is in Leo at 8 degrees, and then my MC is at 8 degrees of, actually it would be in the Sabian symbols, 9 degrees of Sagittarius. So I have that one grand trine. I have 3 yods. I think they're very dominant for me. The Yod of God, 3 of them in my chart.
It was about the ascendant and the
My
node.
ascendant is in Aquarius, and it is at 23 degrees, although it comes 24 when you do the Sabian symbols, is Aquarius. And so I think that was the 3 main ones. And I have it's a lot of sacred geometry throughout, like we all do. And I have Mars and Venus conjunct in Taurus. And I've always felt that that was the sign of the voice, of being able to be a singer. And the Leo being also the sign to express oneself. So I have, my father was a physicist who said, don't get mixed up in astrology. You're so smart. How could you believe that those planets have anything to do with people? So that's what kind of kept me until 28, when I had the chart done by a really amazing astrologer who used Dane Rudhyar's Sabian symbols. And I thought, how does he know me so well, this astrologer? When I had my chart done, and thought, there's something to this. And then when I was 30, I met a fabulous Vedic astrologer who I also thought, what is he, like, inside my head? How can he be telling me all this stuff? So I've had that. And then because I've been so busy with projects, I was an independent in music. I didn't want to be owned by any of the companies because I wanted to stay away from being manipulated by big companies. So I just became Songbird Music. And I put out 9 recordings of my work. And I also have a book that I collaborated with a Japanese woman. And that's these concerts and things have taken me, South America, and I sang through all the temples of the Maya land, through the chakras of the Maya. And then I also sang through Japan. I was taken to all the different locations to do concerts for the idea of bringing energy to these points. It was with spiritual type people. Then I sang through Spain and had concerts throughout Spain with the Ministry of Culture, where I was doing music from medieval Spain because I wanted the Arabs, Jews, and Christians. I wanted that history to come back. At that time in medieval Spain, they collaborated, and the music was astonishingly beautiful and passionate. And it's like the best of all the cultures came together. So when I present it to Jewish audiences, they'd go, "That's not Jewish music." You know, they were expecting the Ashkenazi. I can't even access what's the type of music from Ashkenazi. Well, anyway, and I also had learned Hebrew from a child because my family, part of it was you'd call it from Palestine or Israel, the Jewish aspect of it, and so I had that Hebrew speaking when I was young, like 1 year old, 2 years old, all the way through till I was 17. And my parents were very mad at me for going to Spain because that's where the Inquisition happened. So I was cut off at that time and I was penniless, but I was, you know, thriving. And I also had this experience in Spain where I lived without electricity or plumbing or running water. And I mean, you know, digging a hole in the ground, not even having an outhouse. And then I'd walk over the mountains to teach this music at the school. It was an international school there. So my whole, when COVID started, I had a lead in an opera. I was going to be doing all kinds of concerts. I was the accompanist, like you, Alexandra. I was on harp, accompanying a choir. I play piano, guitar, dulcimer, harp, and I'm a singer, songwriter. So, I mean, I'm a full-on musician, but now every day is astrology. And when I connected with this group of people, I've become so passionate. I almost feel like you're my community of friends, even though I have many friends, but I'm so excited about astrology, and I'm excited about what door it opens. Also, at the end of the 1990s, I became certified by Native Americans working with Pleiadian light work or inner vision work as a clairvoyant, clairsentient, and clairaudient. And we went through all this talking about Jean-Marc, where I got my certificates. I'm officially the, clairvoyant, clairsentient, and I can't even think of it, clairaudient. And so I now with my clients that I've had for 20 years, I add astrology for my own benefit, like whether they want it or not, while I'm doing this clairvoyant type of work with them, helping them, I always have the astrology as well for myself and the tarot cards. I've been interested in tarot cards. So I'm really a metaphysical junkie. But it's all very practical because my main thing of being in the astrological world is how can I help people in the music world? How can I help? How can I make my lifetime worthwhile? And I'm very driven by that. And now I have another thing I took on during the COVID became a student of I've been doing this a long time with Paramahansa Yogananda of the Self-Realization Fellowship. He wrote Autobiography of a Yogi. And so in the 90s, I took all his lessons and studied them, but I didn't want to have a guru. I didn't want to say, this is my teacher. I'm too eclectic. But then this year I went through it again and I went ahead and said, yes, I'm going to learn it. So I've been doing this Kriya exercises, which take about an hour in the morning, an hour in the night. And my meditations are fabulous. And so those are all the things, and they're all connected, right? All the disciplines from math. I mean, like my father was this major physicist, worked for the Air Force and the Navy. And he said, don't get involved in astrology, nor don't get involved in the Kabbalah. And my mother was actually the person who they came to her, and she solved the chemical problems they were having with the Manhattan Project and worked at Princeton with all those top people. So I had my mother, the chemist, my father, the physicist. So I was really a great student. But when I had that opportunity to go into music, I thought, that's the life I want. I don't want to be in a lab. I don't want to use my intelligence in math and science like that. So that was also a pivotal point.
Thank you, Lauren. Thank you. So interesting. The whole background and all that you have been through. So now we have another almost 40 minutes. I know it's long, but we can stay a bit more. Usually it's about 3 hours. Let's go to everybody else left, and then we can finish there. Who is next? Rita, do you want to say something? Are you still
Wow.
with us? Yes.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm listening, and I'm really impressed. You are sitting in astrology so long, and I'm just I think 2 years, 2.5.
Mhm.
But the story is it's I think 30 years ago. The first my experience was not with astrology, but with tarot. And I was busy with tarot cards, but then after a while, I think year, I stopped because I start to have strange things were happened, which I didn't understand, and I decided to stop. With whole respect for the other side, I just said to myself, it's finished. And what is strange, I think that was 2019 or late 2018. The tarot card, just at once I start thinking about tarot cards, and I was surprised. I thought it's impossible. I many years I said I never gonna touch, and suddenly they are back. But I decided just stay with my decision, and then suddenly astrology came out of blue. And I started reading. I bought some book. I find some films on the net. I find school. I start courses, and so I'm just
You're on the
in
path
the
now.
pool in astrology. And I'm also very happy that I find your group, and that I can learn a lot of you all, and you are very fine, interesting people. And what about my what about my horoscope is my sun is in Capricorn, 29 degree, and has sextile with Chiron in Pisces, and sextile with Neptune in Scorpio. My moon is in Aquarius on 16 degrees with Mercurius on 15 degrees. My MC is in Aquarius, 4 degrees. And my ascendant is in Gemini, 11 degrees.
Okay, you have your moon very close to Dwayne's sun, if I got it right. What
I
degree
don't
was
remember. Good.
Yes, did you say 14th, 16th or 15th degree of Aquarius?
16 degrees of Aquarius, my moon.
And what was on the previous degree, on the 15th degree?
Mercurius.
Mercury, okay, yeah.
Mercury, yeah.
Yes. Dwayne has sun in the 15th degree of Aquarius, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you have something in common here. Yeah,
And
sorry, I just remember that.
no, it's okay. And my Venus is in Pisces, also on 16 degrees.
You have a lot of late signs, it seems. Yeah.
Yeah.
Capricorn,
And
Aquarius, Pisces.
yeah, and I think And then what is also strange, I start study and I'm learning and I put away the thoughts about tarot cards, but when I start with astrology, I thought, okay, this is safe. It's black on white. I was a little bit naive, I think, because one day, that was last year in June, that strange things start happens again. I think what I mean strange things, some kind of vision or I don't know how to call it. And on one moment I was thinking, wow, it's just impossible. What's going on with me? Because I thought astrology is just safe on that level. And I wanted to give up, but then I was thinking, I was talking also with my sister, which has also many talents and also the talent to communicate with people and communicate with the other side. And I decided to stay because I think astrology can help also another people, just like everybody are saying, but also to help understand myself. And also maybe when I ran away from the tarot cards, they came, and now came also astrology into my life, because maybe that's the reason. Maybe there is something I can do for people, for the society. I'm still searching, and yeah, it's very, very interesting, and I hope one day I'm gonna be closer to find out why. But yeah, on that moment I just enjoy the group with you and also other astrologers, and I must say I start also reading charts for friends and so, and yeah, it does make sense, and they are also happy, and yeah,
I don't know.
we will see.
You said you had Capricorn ascendant and so many things around these signs, where so much is going on in transits in the last few years. You know, transit of Pluto. I don't know if you've already crossed your ascendant or not.
No, my ascendant is in Gemini. My sun is in Capricorn.
Sun. I see. Okay.
Sorry.
Well, that's even more. You know, Saturn or Pluto crossing this line of the sun is probably some sort of wake-up call for what you're exploring.
I think this it's happened this way because I was looking for the transits and the progression when I had the contact with the tarot card in the past, and also my progressed moon, she was in Capricorn. Now what happened when the progress moon was going into Capricorn? I start to also thinking on the other hand that I'm staying home, I'm disabled, but I still feel like I can do something. My head, I hope, is still working quite good. Then maybe on that way I can do something, feel like I bring something to the society and to the people, and meaning to learn, not really job, but to be able to belong to the to the society.
Well, you do. You're a part of this society, and I appreciate that you're here. And I love your story too.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you felt, and don't share if you don't feel like sharing, but what was the Was there a main thing when you stopped doing the tarot? Was there a main thing when you got scared of continuing with astrology? Is it because you were bleeding through from other dimensions? So,
You know, I was not scared. I didn't understood. That were vision. They were coming some people. I think people. But I didn't understand, and that was I was not angry, but I was irritated that I couldn't understand why I see some things, why I knew some things, what's gonna happen. For example, one day, I just in one moment I have the thought in my head, like the 19, it's gonna be peace and everything's gonna be all right. The 19th, it's gonna be all right. It's strange. It's what that's supposed to mean. And I was waiting. That was July. I was waiting for the 19th of July. Nothing happened. But the thought was constantly with me. That came 19th of Augustus and nothing happened. But the thought was still. Then I took the cards and I saw that I saw somebody's gonna die in around me. But I didn't know who. And 19th of September, in the morning, the thought went away and I was happy. I thought, oof. But then I thought, wow, but who is it? Few hours after, I received call, my nephew had accident and he died. And I had also experience with seeing people, seeing things, but I couldn't understand that what I have to do with that. And I didn't blame the tarot card, but I thought to then that maybe there is connection, maybe I wake up something, but I'm not really clever enough to cooperate. Then I stopped. And I think that was late 2018, early 2019, when the cards that I should start working with tarot cards. And I thought, no. And then just suddenly it's astrology. Then I don't know. And I thought it's okay. It's just, but now I have the experience again. But I still don't understand why. And I spoke to few people, and they are telling me that I have to become open. But what does mean be open? I am open. I'm not afraid. I'm not scared, but I just don't understand.
I have an intuitive sense about this, and I see Lauren is going to say something. Should I let you go first?
Go first. I can hold mine.
Okay, I don't want you to forget. I just have the strongest intuitive sense. You know, I'm quite intuitive, and I just have my mind. It just gave me the words like you have a mission to complete. It's quite obvious, in my opinion. I can sense that you have there's a subconscious prompting from your soul, so to speak. I sense or suspect that is compelling you to complete a spiritual mission of sorts. And I do believe that it is related to you allowing yourself to become reacquainted with your intuitive senses or skills, or I don't really like when people say gifts, but your gifts. But I do feel that perhaps you need to study mediumship. Maybe you need to acquaint yourself with the Arthur Findlay College in England. I just get a strong sense that you something on a subconscious or an unconscious level, your soul is prompting you to complete this particular mission, and you'll figure it out. Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, I can agree with you. And for example, what happened the last time, and 4 years ago, the 5th of February, my husband died. He died in my hands, in hospital. The 11th of February. Yeah, that's the life. The 11th of February, that was the ceremony to say goodbye to him. That was Saturday, and everybody was telling me that I have to do that Friday, the 10th of February. I said, no, it's not good. That must be Saturday, because it's better also to other people. They can join. No. I'm stubborn like Capricorn. I said, no, it's Saturday. What I discovered, and it's happened Saturday. What I discovered when I start with astrology, the 11th of February was the lunar eclipse. But I didn't know. And the lunar eclipse was in Aquarius. Nothing special. Eclipse like eclipse. 4 years after, this year, the 5th of February, a very good friend of mine, also my therapist, my physiotherapist, he became not well at home. He called the ambulance. They took him to hospital. The 11th of February, we had the very nice aspect on the sky, Venus with Jupiter, and also new moon. Where? In Aquarius. And we had here in Belgium very beautiful day. It was sunny, but from the morning I felt it's strange day. Looks like very fine, but no, it's just outside is nice, but in it's something very bad happened.
Yep.
And I was carrying also some sort crystal in my pocket the whole day, and in the evening, suddenly, yeah, I was in toilet, yeah. Yeah, and the crystal just jumped out of my pocket, and was broken. And I thought, oh no, that's not true, yeah. And okay, the next day, I received phone call from my Kenis, from my friends. Do you know what happened? And I said, no, I don't know, but what happened? Tell me. Yeah, the physiotherapist, my friend, he died yesterday. Yeah. When I heard that, my whole world, it just went upside down. I was just, I couldn't believe. I know maybe it's just I'm too I'm overacting, but those 2 days, day on day, very I couldn't believe. It's also I start to know what happened with the friend now. What was the reason? Heart infarct or whatever. Nobody can tell me. The family, they don't know. The doctors, they will not say anything, which is a similar situation like with my husband. The moment when he died, the doctors, they they didn't want to say. They didn't know what happened on that moment. And then I was looking that when the sun is going through Aquarius and is reaching my moon and my Mercury, every time something happened. Every time. And I don't know if you have also such an experience when in your charts the sun or the moon touches your sun or other way around. If something specific happened in your life, I don't mean to buy new pair of shoes, but something what you remember and which is happening when you can say, wow, oh, you know, something quite important.
I'm sure many astrologers notice this. Yeah.
I was just curious, what house is your moon in Aquarius at in the chart?
In 10th house.
Okay.
It's when you use Placidus.
Okay. And what aspects does it make with other planets?
He has square to Mars in Scorpio.
So the moon is square Mars and the Mars is Scorpio. Right.
And
wow.
And he has sextile to Saturn in Aries. Saturn is 19 degrees Aries.
You say he? Are you talking about your chart or
Saturn.
somebody else's?
Saturn.
She's personifying the planets.
Oh, but yeah, I was thinking about the moon. So the moon aspects, not the sun aspects. If that was...
No. The
she's
moon.
saying the moon makes a sextile to Saturn in Aries.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. And the square to Mars in Scorpio.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Also, Lauren had something to say. I didn't want to.
Okay, I'll go back to it.
Yes, go.
I was just trying to say, in metaphysical arts, when you do have capacities that are that transparency of multidimensionality that you seem to have with tarot, with the astrology, with events, there, because I studied with the Native Americans, this Pleiadian light work, which is light work that you do for people from inside yourself, and you see things, but they teach you so much about having safe space and grounding the energy. So I always have a mesa I set up before I work with any clients, and it's like it helps ground the energy so I am not personally affected, because I'm so sensitive that sometimes if I'm working with someone and it starts coming through my body and the events in my own life, and that gives me 1 degree of separation, as I was taught by the Native Americans. So I was going to offer to you, I had put my email in the thing, and if you want to contact me, I will help you feel more protected, and some of the procedures that I have learned to protect myself and be able to help others without being taken over, so to speak, by the energies I'm able to
Thank you. I wrote on the paper your mail.
Some sort of exchange with that if you're interested.
Thank you.
That's what I wanted to say, is that those kinds of things you get if you go through like Native American, you get trained, because otherwise your whole life starts. All of a sudden, if I forget to break up the mesa, that with a person, it's still going on, and I need to take all the things and the prayers and everything and put them outside, and then the connection is nicely broken. So I'm living my life again with my own energies. Anyway, that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you. But that's my story.
Thank you, Rudhyar. Thank you for sharing with us everything. And
great story.
It's so great that you guys can start making connections for different reasons. Yeah, that's what I wanted. to start happening today. Okay, we have some more time. I wonder what we do. We have Dionysus. You told us a little bit about yourself, but do you want to try to be quick?
Yes.
Guys, so we
Yes.
squeeze in a couple more people before we
Could
go.
we have
Because we're not that
or
many.
a 3-minute break just to use the bathroom?
You can go. I mean,
I can just go. If I'll leave for a second.
You leave. We continue. We continue because we
Yes.
have another 15 minutes on it.
Yes, 16. But yes, so I like to work with structure. And so to start, I will indicate the primary astrological details of my chart. That so I have the sun in Gemini, both in 12th house. And sun in Gemini and Mercury in Gemini, both in 12th house. Ascendant in Cancer, and like Alexandra, moon in Pisces as well. And I also happen to be a classical pianist. Self-taught though. And that's an interesting story I'll tell. But so my midhaven, well, one feature of my chart that I really like is that I have a T-square configuration between Mars, Jupiter, and my Uranus-Neptune conjunction. And then I also have a mystic rectangle configuration that between 4 planets that I really like as well. And then one feature I've found in my chart to be interesting and notable for myself is that I have, I think, 5 planets in their domicile. So I have Mars in Aries, Venus in Taurus, Mercury in Gemini, Saturn in Capricorn, Pluto in Scorpio. And then I also happen to have Jupiter on its exalted degree, 15th degree in Cancer. And then it's in mutual reception with the moon in Pisces at 1 degree. And so the moon is in the 9th house. So those are my astrological details. If you have any questions to Radilina, that will help me to structure the next.
No, I think that was more than enough for us. This domicile and planets in rulership, is that where all the energy is coming from? I'm starting to wonder. This very channeled, I think something like that comes to my mind. Like you're very channeled always. Obviously very good with words. So Mercury in Gemini conjunct the Sun in Gemini.
No, not conjunct.
No, not
far.
Conjunct. They're apart, but they're okay.
They're very apart. Sun at 23 degrees, Mercury at 3 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
And the degree one of Gemini.
Yes, I was gonna say 23 degrees. This degree today has been very prominent. We've been talking about this.
And not just today. Do you know about this consequence, consecutive new moons in Gemini this year, in the 23rd degree this year?
Yes, you were talking about that before. Yes, it's just very prominent, this number. But yeah, my sun is at 23 degrees, as I mentioned before. And so a little I don't know, what do they call it? Just a little autobiographical information. So I'm from the United States. I was born in Philadelphia and then raised in New York City. And I currently live in Austin, Texas. I guess I was always just like a strange child or something. I think when I was born, well, I think we'll get into this when we begin talking about Chiron. I'll save this story for that.
Save it for Chiron.
Yeah, that would be a great one to convey. But moving on, I remember just always being different from the other children. And of course, now I know why. It's because I am autistic. I was just diagnosed 87 days ago. But that aside, I don't know. I never really fit in. I was very interested in spirituality, even all the way back at 10 years old. And I would read books. I would go to the library all the time and just read a bunch of books about hypnosis or paganism or Wicca or what have you. And so then I would conduct a lot of my own experiments in school. So I don't know why, no one taught me to do this, but I remember being at the lunch table. I could never relate to the children. So I would create a game. I would sit at the center of the table and I would give them all a piece of paper. I would write down a number and I would tell them that I'm going to make them all think of this number, my favorite number, 7. And I mean, you have to imagine this. I'm like this urban kid in this like urban setting in Philadelphia with like, most of the community is African American, but also a large Asian population. And so I was just very strange. And so, but nevertheless, there were about 8 kids, and every single one of them, when they turned over, when they revealed their numbers, they all wrote down the number 7. And I remember thinking from that point on, wow, I feel like I have some sort of spiritual influence or telepathy. So anyways, fast forwarding, I remember around 14 is when I heard the Moonlight Sonata by Beethoven in an art store. It was so beautiful. And I started crying. And then I snuck into this jazz school because I always saw a piano there. And that's when I realized that I could play whatever I hear, music. And then I began a music career. I ended up on America's Got Talent, like a national television program on TV and stuff. I've always lucked up in careers, and I think this is relevant. I have a grand trine as well between Jupiter at 15 degrees, Pluto at 15 degrees, and then my Pisces midheaven. And my Pisces midheaven is exactly conjunct the part of fortune as well in Pisces at 11 degrees. And so there's that grand trine. And so essentially I always end up associating with celebrities or, anyone that's in a prominent position. So like I've ended up interviewing lots of prominent astrologers, authors, celebrity psychics, being friends with these people. Like, I don't know if you guys know Noel Till, but he's like one of the individuals that I've been able to, associate with. And I don't know how to explain it. I know it's related to this grand trine and the part moon and, the part of fortune and Pisces, but any prominent figure in any field that I choose to interact with, I just think to myself, I want to know them, I want to be friends with them, or I want to interact with them. And then I do, always. And so there's that. But in terms of astrology, oh my God, I'm going on too long. And to conclude, in terms of astrology,
next time. We can continue. We don't need to stop the conversation here. So we can keep revealing things about ourselves as we meet every time like this. This is a very short introduction today, so we have a bit of a feel about everybody. And yes, we can do it again. Dionysus, are you okay if we leave it up to here for now, and then we?
Yes, I am okay.
Yes, I just because I think we have a chance to hear from everybody. We only have Dwayne, Praveen, and Shami.
Yes.
So, Dwayne, your turn.
Yes, I want to know your story. Your astrological details, you should get them out the way.
No, astrological details are important, but mention them quickly.
Yeah, Sun in Aquarius, Moon in Aries. Now, when it comes to ascendant, descendant, and so on, after 72 years of age, I'm now in my 73rd year, so it's 1 degree of precession. I've been compelled to release use of all of the traditional forms of house delineation, and instead moving into what's called the natural or Aries, zero Aries chart form. And it's been very interesting to have to let go of all that mapping of my nativity that my birth chart has been over almost 50 years. So I'm in a transition zone, and I'm feeling compelled to do it. And I don't know what's up ahead, but I have the sense that I'm fulfilling this sort of thing that Rudhyar has been calling us to, which is to move from the sun-centered astrology, the solar I, into the galactic we consciousness. And at the galactic we consciousness level, which is what the outer planets are calling us to, that personal horoscope kind of drops away like a piece of a rocket ship heading out into orbit. We have different stages, and at different stages, components are let go of. And that's how I feel I'm embracing my astrology these days. In the last couple of weeks. Well, so according to traditional usage, yeah, Cancer ascendant.
Okay.
Cancer 25 degrees. But astrology has been a part of my life since 1972, when I first encountered Rudhyar, and with the North Node in Aries, that was a very fortunate encounter for me to have. And he has certainly been my foremost mentor in this life. Along with Rudhyar in 72 came a connection to Jose Arguelles, who, if you haven't heard of Jose, Rudhyar considered him to be an embodiment of the avatar, the artist as avatar. And I was introduced to him at the same time as I was introduced to Rudhyar, and that was in 1972. Well, I've followed, both of those mentors through the years, and interesting to me, and something that kind of spurs me on, is that Mr. Arguelles died very suddenly at age 72. So as I'm now age 72, I'm kind of looking to each day as being, vital. I really want to make as much use of that day in my life as I can. And it's been a very interesting journey with astrology, and it's been the number one tool in my consciousness basket.
Dwayne, tell us about the website, just quickly, so people can check out your work. I know
Yeah.
some of them know it, but it always helps to repeat.
I've been a synthesizer, and it's been primarily with the inspiration from Rudhyar and Arguelles compounded. But I've also had some really powerful direct experiences that have totally altered my whole being, and have given me information which has been consolidated into what I share on my website, lightningpath.net.
I will write it down here.
Thank you. It's what you might expect from an Aquarian with a moon in Aries and a North Node in Aries, and numerologically a life path that's 1. So I'm definitely understanding myself to be a pioneer, and I'm pushing ahead every day. And at one point here, a year and a half, 2 years ago, I started to feel this desire to be part of a group. Rudhyar talks a lot about the seed group, and I was very interested to know, so there's all these, he has stressed this aspect of his teachings a lot, in his philosophical writings especially, and yet I wasn't aware of any seed group. So I started going out on the internet looking, and that's when I discovered Radilina and her Rudhyar page on Facebook, and also GX Jones and his Rudhyar page. And so it was just by connecting with those two groups that I ended up here with you folks. And to me, we seem to be embodying this archetype of the seed group. And Rudhyar will call us to define what is our function in the global community at this time. It's important to coalesce around a vision. And not knowing exactly how today would unfold in the session, I did create a presentation with slides and so on, which is not for today, but at some point, I'd like to share that with you all. So I have some ideas about what our united purpose could be. But I really encourage you to think about that, that over the long term, what is it we're trying to manifest here? What is the most important thing we can do?
Succeed, that this is a seed group, and that's part of my commitment to it.
Right
also,
on.
I'm one on the numerology too.
Oh, right on. Well, okay, just a quick story. 2 or 3 weeks ago, I literally, the Sphinx was inside my head, and it was urging me on. And I encountered this research about the shifting of the poles and of the orientation of different sacred sites to the shifting pole dynamic. And so these are by some mathematicians. And there was a point when I started to get this download feeling of energy and insight. And on the graphic that I came onto, we had Teotihuacan, the pyramids at Teotihuacan indicated, and the pyramids at Giza. And both of these were connected through these two vectors. Well, in that moment, I recalled your experience, Lauren, of being on top of the pyramids at Giza. You're the only other person I know that's ever been to the top of the pyramid. Well, I've been to the top of the pyramid of Teotihuacan. And so there we were, as I'm getting this information, you loomed right into the picture, sitting up there on the top of the pyramid. So, that set me off on a research quest now for the last few weeks here, where I have been plunging through my library behind me here, every indication I can get about the Sphinx, about the pyramids, about anything related to house systems. I've been trying to get back to the source, who started this use of the house systems, and back and back and back. I finally made it to the Sumerians, and that's where I've been focusing in the last couple of days. But it's been wild and wonderful.
Mill, have you ever heard of that book? It's the precursor to astrology. It's called Hamlet's Mill, and I couldn't. It's all these stories pre-Sumeria from all the different cultures, and apparently it's before. It's like precursors to astrology. Anyway, that's why it's hard to read, though. My God. It's hard.
Yeah. Lauren, write it down. Write it down in the chat box.
Okay, I'll get the author as well. Hold on, I'll come back.
No, whenever you're ready. Dwayne,
what about Shami?
Yes, we're moving on to Shami and to Praveen. Just quickly wanted to finally ask Dwayne, can we do this presentation 1 month from now, for example?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yes, I think it's probably a good idea if we keep this sort of session like we have today, once a month, and then you can do it. You can begin with it.
Fabulous.
Yes, perfect. Perfect.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Okay, well, I will start with Praveen now because he was here first. I think Shami joined us a little later. But yes. Praveen, hello. How are you?
Hello. Hello, Radilina. I'm very grateful to be part of with you. So myself is Praveen. I'm from Goa, India. So I have been practicing the Vedic astrology since 7 years. So I am very new with this Western astrology and all this culture. So I did some lots of chart analysis on my own view. So I had been followed up that B.V. Raman books. So it's great books. He did a lot of work on Vedic astrology. So, but still, it was something gap was there to connect in Vedic. It's aspects wise, I was missing in that Vedic terminology. So that's why I joined in this Western groups. Here I can get something clue about that aspects, how to look the planets aspects, and all those things. So, if you don't mind, I will share my natal. So I'm
yes, just quickly. Yeah.
Yes, I'm just Taurus ascendant rising. So
Like me.
North Node,
Okay.
yeah, North Node was got exalted there. North Node was there around 28 degrees. So my Saturn was placed in the Libra. It's around 28 degrees Libra. There is a sixth digit. My Sun was placed in the Scorpio. Is with the South Node. So along with Uranus. So my Sagittarius was having the very kind benefic sharings with Jupiter and Mercury was been there. So because of that, I was turned into the astrology. Maybe that is the sign of Sagittarius because and to more
Yes, I
philosophical.
already like that
The
chart. It's very
eighth,
similar to mine.
yeah, eighth digit it was. Now the ninth digit, Venus and Mars was placed. That is the Capricorn. So in the
Are you using
Capricorn,
sidereal astrology?
no, is yes, sir, yes, it's
Okay.
Oh,
absolutely
that's sidereal.
sidereal.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
Sidereal.
Have you had the chance to check your chart in the Western system?
no, I didn't try because I was just new to them. Just now, I started to learn about the Western, like Alan Leo works. I started to learn. So it was very
Okay,
interesting
okay.
to got into that. So it would be great pleasure. I can learn some great things which I have been noticed gap in the Vedic astrology. So I can share.
They're very
I
different
can feel
systems,
it
aren't
different.
they? They're
Yeah,
totally
yeah,
different, so you can use them in parallel to one another.
yeah.
Yes, Jason wants to ask something.
Just
Yes, Karen.
just one comment. Just
Yeah, welcome.
for the sake of the conversion between the sidereal and tropical, you're basically adding about 24 degrees to the sidereal positions to
Yeah.
get your tropical. So that's an
Okay.
easy, quick way to decipher where the positions are. So if you just simply add about 24 degrees ahead of
Okay.
the sidereal, you can do an approximation of where all the tropical positions are.
Yeah,
So,
it's
so
about
we with the tropical
25
would do the
degrees.
other way around.
Mhm. Yeah.
Eh?
Yes, it's actually about 25 degrees now, but it's true. So with Praveen's chart, you just go, you head towards the succeeding sign. So if it's in Scorpio, then you head towards Sagittarius.
Yeah. So now, I mean, in career-wise, I am in research. I am doing PhD in Goa University. So I will be in that line only. So I'm the research scholar here. So by sidewise, I had a lot of interest to know about astrology. I mean, how to follow the planets, stars, how to move in a better way.
Right.
So that's my wish. So I hope this platform would be great for me to get something about Western.
Yes, you're also welcome to watch the previous ones. We always meet on Thursday for the last year, and there are all the recordings. So maybe some good material there for you as well, if you like.
Yeah, okay.
I will show
Pleasure.
it at the end. Before we say goodbye, I will show you the website and the channel and everything. So you know where everything is.
Okay.
Thank you so much for sharing this, and hope to see you again at the next ones.
Yeah,
And finally, before we go, I want to ask Shami. Shami, are you here?
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
So I am in Western. I'm a Cancer Sun, Scorpio Ascendant, Scorpio Moon, and I'm sorry. What was that?
No, go on. Don't worry. It was some sound from somewhere else.
Oh, okay. And so basically, I just started researching astrology maybe about a year ago, just trying to get more insight on different personal dynamics, and so I've had a lot of fun with that. I so far have just been using a lot of the websites out there. I don't know how to read aspects yet, and so during the process of looking for a class, I came across a Vedic astrology intro class. So I'm taking that now, and just basically just learning. I had been wanting to connect with other people that are in this astrology space, and so I was so excited to come across this. And you guys have been around for about a year?
We started with a few people, like a study group part of a course I was doing, and then over time, new people joined us. We started expanding on the topics. So it's been a bit chaotic. We have all sorts of different topics we've been discussing, like the signs of the zodiac. If you go back to the very beginning, they were more basic. So for example, we are speaking about, say, Cancer, the fourth house, and the moon in one session, and it's more for general archetype learning. But then later we did more technical things like the progress relation cycle, for example, or you can see on the, I will show in a second where you can find all the recordings from last year. But yes, it's mostly my talks in the beginning of every session, and then we have a discussion later. But every now and then I try to do something different, which is more interactive, like today.
Oh, great. And so you're in London?
Partially. Sometimes I'm in London, sometimes I'm in Spain, in Valencia, between the two places. Usually right now I'm in Spain. Yeah.
Oh, got it. And what is your website where it has the previous recordings and your classes?
Yes, because you were the last one speaking, I will show you all now. This is the, I'm sharing the screen. Could you see it?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the YouTube channel. You can find me there by this name here at the top. And subscribe if you want. So here, if you go to right at the top, this playlist called Astrology Archetypes, if you click on that, you've got all the recordings of those meetings on Thursday. And we started in April, actually exactly 1 year ago, in April last year. And from here, you can see we started with archetypes in general, and then we expanded on other things. Recently, more towards the top, you can see these 5 talks I did on humanistic astrology related to Dane Rudhyar's work. So that was going step by step over his book, The Practice of Astrology, where you can use this as some sort of learning resource if you want, and learn things about, for example, aspects, planetary cycles, the transits and progressions, the meaning of signs, and so on. Yeah, just explore here. Last week we had a session with James Burgess, who is a creator of a website about the Sabian symbols and many other things related to that. And I think Dionysus, you would be very interested in this because this is directly related to the number 7. I don't know if you were with us last week. Were you?
No, I was not, but I love the number 7. Yes.
So this is somebody that is revolving around the number 7 and all the system, the whole system that he created. You know, you would probably find that very relevant to your symbology of the number 7. Anyway, so this last one, the method was presented there. You can watch it now. And then next week, we're doing a workshop on the same thing. So everybody's welcome to join us and see, you know.
And I'm sorry, what is the workshop on?
So this is called the Elven Star Method, something that was developed by James Burgess. It is connecting a Sufist technique of 7 words with Sabian symbols. So the astrological meaning of the Sabian symbols. So these are all very specific things, but if you watch this video here, you would see better what exactly it is all about. And you know, it is basically a system of self-discovery, let's say, or working through meditation with certain 7 symbols from your chart, and discovering how they play together and how you can discover some sort of cohesion between them and meaning related to your own particular case. So this is not something that I'm too familiar with yet. We have this you know, invitation by Mr. Burgess to do this presentation, so we are all exploring it at the moment. And next week, part of the workshop will be Lauren presenting her set of 7, right? And a demonstration how you can do the same with your own chart.
And shock upon shock, 2 of my symbols are the same as Radilina.
How could that be? How could that be? I mean, so basically the 7, let's just very quickly say, because it may be very confusing, and I'll finish with that. we're talking about 7 Sabian symbols, which are 7 degrees of the wheel of the 360 degrees of the whole zodiac, which are calculated starting from your sun. So the first one is your sun position. And then it's every 51.5 degrees or approximately, which is what is called the 7th harmonic, dividing the circle into 7 equal parts, and then seeing where these 7 points, it's a 7-pointed star that is created that way. In this video, you would see why and what that is supposed to mean, which one corresponds to which word of the 7-word system and so on. So it's just for me personally something that helps most of all discover other dimensions of the Sabian symbols, something that I'm very interested in. We did it. I was like the case study of Mr. Burgess last time, but now we are doing the same thing with 2 more people as a demonstration of how you can do that.
That sounds really interesting. And I think 51 point, etc. degrees, that's related to the septile, right? And
Exactly.
that's the, yeah, the 7th
exactly
harmonic.
The septile aspect,
Yeah.
yes. So
yes. 1.26 is what he said, right? When someone mentioned it's also connected with the Chiron.
That's what I think. Yes,
So,
Mr. Burgess doesn't agree with me very much on the Chiron connection, but I believe the Chiron connection is there, and maybe it will be okay if after we do the workshop next week, the following week, I think it's a good opportunity to speak about Chiron. And
I don't agree either. Oh, just joking. You know, I relate the number 7 to Neptune. I don't know why. I always have.
He also does. He also does. So maybe you
Wow.
can have an agreement there. But I'm coming from a different
Yes,
point.
yes, yes.
I'm not saying necessarily that Chiron is related to the number 7, but because when we it's all about the Chiron revolving around the sun in approximately 50 to 51 years. And things around this, which I'll explain in more detail when we get to
Yes, I can't wait. Can't wait.
What he said is that this is a methodology for developing a more magical experience of one's life. It's the 7-pointed star. It's the elf. It's this magical kingdom that you, in a way, start to activate when you know your 7, when you know them, and you also relate them to your life experiences.
Can I ask you, Lauren, would you begin, I think as you said, Radilina, this is like you said a Sufist method. It's just a methodology, a methodology. But would it, and I'm sure I should just probably look at the YouTube video, but just quickly, would you begin, would the starting point be at your ascendant?
No.
Where's the starting point?
He uses the sun as a starting point, but from what I heard from him last time, it turns out that the system can be applied to any planet pretty much, like the moon, for example, as a starting point, and discover a different configuration of septiles. So it's like a set of septiles that we can create from any. But the system has been developed based on the sun position for the moment. I personally think that it will be very interesting to start from the new moon before birth, or maybe from the moon itself. But with the moon, it's more difficult to calculate because not many people are exactly aware of their exact time of birth. So the moon can shift very quickly, isn't it? So
that makes sense.
We know the degree. That system is based on exact calculation of degrees. So yeah. Anyway,
that's awesome.
It's an
experiment. Yes, it's an experiment.
This reminds me of it's just a method. Like for instance, I love to utilize the nodes for all the planets, not just the moon.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just a method. Yeah.
So much to explore out there, isn't it? So yeah, that's a bit of an unusual direction, but we thought, why not? And so much other things can pop out by doing that. Lauren, before we say goodbye, which ones of the 2 symbols are the same? You just made me very
hen with the chicks scratching for chicks, and the tourist bus.
The touristic bus.
Yes, those are 2 of mine.
Okay. I will get in touch and we can talk about this more.
Okay.
In preparation. So finally, this is the YouTube channel, but this is my website, the proper website where you registered for today from. And here on the events page is usually where we post every next event. So you can keep an eye on this. When you go to video, you're back to the videos of the sessions. So that's just an alternative place where you can watch them from. And yeah, the rest of it is just my page. Here, maybe this will be helpful for you, the reading list, where I store a list of all my books. So if you're interested in that, you can browse through. And
it's amazing by doing this once a week, the accumulation of resource that you have offered people by just it's just a wonderful example of what you can do with life if you just give one focus and then you build it like you have. You're like a fabulous resource. I'd rather do it week than have all 52 weeks to look at it once. But anyway, I am so grateful for you.
Yeah, you're kind of awesome. No, I'm just joking.
So we make it all together. I'm just organizing it, but we make it all together, and that's how it's working with the team spirit we all have.
But you are amazing.
And you are amazing. Yes.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. I really appreciate your support, and I hope we can go on, even when work comes. That I need to do more intensively than I had the luck to be free in the last few months during the lockdown to concentrate on this. But I will keep going with the Thursday discussions. And if I don't have enough time to prepare a proper talk, we can have a general discussion like today. And I think this is marvelous too, isn't it?
And you can delegate.
And I can delegate, and I've been delegating, and I would like to do it more.
I had an opportunity to talk about Leonard Bernstein or Shirley MacLaine or Paramahansa Yogananda and do their charts. I loved doing that.
Yes, quickly, I want to share, because you said that, finally, on the page, so let me see where we are. So on the YouTube channel, we have Dwayne's presentations here.
Nice.
Take a look at them too. There is a separate playlist. So you go down a little bit, you find this playlist, and here are all the presentations that Dwayne did during those months. Yeah,
thank you so much for that, Radilina.
Yeah, they're shorter than mine, so they would be much more approachable, let's say. Yeah.
Yes.
But very
that's really cool.
Thanks again, and I'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye,
Take care, guys. Thanks.
Bye.
Great to meet everybody.
Thank you.
And gals.
Thank you.
Guys and gals.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.